Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 498. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the current reigning, returning, destroying city, sensei of the whatnot Segulin, Duke of and elder statesman of the podcast.
How's it going, eh?
You are an evil person from our voicemails later.
I am.
That will make a lot more sense when you hear our voicemails. And I never knew this about you, but I'm very... You know what, Jim? I'm not mad at you. I'm just disappointed. On this episode, we are going to be talking about Batman number 24. We're going to be talking about Dark Days, The Forge, number 1, the big kickoff to the summer event. We're also going to be talking about a tribute to Adam West. We're going to talk about the Batman 66 film, but also just Adam West in general, his career, and those type of pieces. But we do get kind of spoilery about the Batman 66 movie. And we also talk about, actually, Jim, your reactions to the Wonder Woman film, because you weren't able to join us our last episode. And we have listener voicemails. We have 3 great voicemails from Scott, Russell, and a very special one from our good friend over at Earth Station 1. So let's talk about those later. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network, the League of Comic Book Podcasts, and the InfiniteComics.com podcast partnership. Jim, we're sponsored once again by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. I have no idea, but I know you're going to tell me what's going on over at DCBService.com.
Bundles, 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 DCBS bundles. That's right. Bundles, bundles, bundles. God, I love these people for this stuff. 50% off. I'm looking at these various bundles, and yes, they have a Rebirth bundle. Number 1 includes Dark Knight's Metal number 1, so they're throwing it in there, making sure you get that as well. 45% off on the variant covers, which I love these guys for that because that's how I'm getting my variants. But here's the other thing, and I always want to make sure I stress this. Yes, they have the great comic book deals, but if you're a statue collector, you gotta check them out. They have a couple different Wonder Woman statues this month, and they range between 20 to 25% off. Price ranges varying between $41 to $111. Check out these different statues. They all look absolutely wonderful. These are some fabulous Wonder Woman statues. A lot of them are based off of the movies. They even have a Barbie Wonder Woman that's based off of the movie, so that's kind of neat, So it's more than just comics with DCBS. They've got statues. They've got various other, cool collectabilities. So thank you, DCBS.
Remember, they're a digital partner, too, whether you do Comixology or My Digital Comics. Make sure to link your accounts and shop through their portals. And basically, portal means you just go to their website, click on the link. You're making sure that you're logged in, and you will get 5% of your purchases towards your DCB service order. It doesn't cost you anything more, but it's a great way to get something back. And it does help our show sponsor. So please, if you shop mostly digital, please do use their portal because of the fact that it does earn them a little kickback, and it's a way of saying thank you for supporting podcasts like ours, because they support quite a few. Over at InStockTrades.com, I love their deals of the week. They've got Hawkman by Jeff Johns trade paperback, book 1, 50% off, only $14.99. I want to take any joking out of that. This is an amazing series. If you've never read it, pick it up. It's Hawkman by Jeff Johns, 50% off, only $14.99. Teen Titans, The Bronze Age Omnibus. Jim, I know you're a big Teen Titans fan. This is 50% off, only $62.50. Did you get this?
I may have actually picked that up when it was... when they initially offered it through DCBS. Yeah, I got a double check, though.
I'm a big fan of these omnibuses, and I've been collecting them along the way. It's a great full-color hardcover collection, and it's 50% off, only $62.50, and it's a high page count, and it's a great way to get these books. Because before, you and I were both collecting Showcase 5s, which were the black and white versions of this. These omnibuses now, they're releasing these bad boys in full color, and this is my preference. You give me a nice giant-size hardcover, lots of comics, full color, I'm in. They also have the Teen Titans Trade Paperback Volume 1, Damian Knows Best, 50% off, only $8.49. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Mr. Segulin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So, if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
I got to say something. I had to do the spoiler warning last week because you weren't on the show. It is weird. Because I didn't do one of yours. I just did a generic spoiler warning, but I even referenced it on the show. I'm like, this is odd. I've gotten so used to, because I think I used to do the spoiler warning, and I did a very generic one early on in the podcast. I was very comfortable doing it back in the day. Trying to do it again without you there, usually I cut and paste one from you. I didn't really have one that fit the Wonder Woman film, so I did one. It was odd. That's all I got to say about it. I do not like doing this show without you. I loved having Daryl Taylor on, but it would have been nice to having you and Daryl Taylor, and then we did the show, mainly because I needed you for the doggone spoiler warning. You are irreplaceable. So without further ado, let's talk some comics.
Chloe, the Book of Route isn't here.
Jim, we're going to go in a bit of a different order than when we originally talked on the phone because I'm insanely curious. You've finally seen Wonder Woman. Tell me about Wonder Woman.
Dude, man, I loved Wonder Woman. That actually was just, I wish I had seen it sooner, and I wish I had seen it more times than what I've actually seen it so far. And I'm glad I got to see it in the big screen. It's funny because I went and I got to see it when I was in Philadelphia I went to see it with my niece Cassie and my brother Bill, and all three of us had the same "this is awesome" reaction to it. So it was kind of cool. And on a side note, the reason I was in Philadelphia is because I am a very proud uncle. My niece Cassie has graduated from college. She graduated from Drexel University, so
that's cool.
That was a really awesome experience, and that was great to see her. And we were all very proud of her. And she pursued her goal and pursued her dream. It's and that's the thing that you love seeing people that you care about just say, this is what I want to do, this is who I'm going to be. And she didn't let adversity or anything get in the way of her pursuance of it. I'm very proud.
Did you say what her degree is? What did she?
It's photography. I didn't say that. It's photography.
Okay, that's very cool.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. And she's right now out there freelancing, and she's doing her thing. So she's Peter Parker.
That's sweet, though. I mean, nowadays, to your point, it's nice when you see somebody because Cassie's been on the show before. For anybody listening, so their longtime listeners would remember her from the show, and she's actually called into the show before. So I mean, she's got a history with the podcast. But you're right; it's nice to see somebody who knows what they want to do and is able to make it happen, because so often that's not the case, and it's great. I mean, really, you have every reason to be proud, and obviously we know her from the show and everything like that. She's a good person, so I'm glad to see that happen to a good person as well.
Yeah, the only downside to the graduation was the auditorium, gymnasium we were in for the ceremony was awful dusty because my brother's eyes just kept watering constantly, and it must have been the dust that got in his eyes.
Kind of like smoke gets in your eyes.
Yeah. The funny thing is, his wife had the same dust in her eyes too, because her eyes were watering as well.
Well, there's dust in the wind, I've heard too. So yeah, that's good. Honestly, it's great nowadays to hear. So does she know? What does she want to do with it? So now that we're talking about photography, I guess because
she's working. As I said, she's right now doing the freelance stuff, and and it's as she gets the assignments and whatnot, and she's out there taking the pictures. To be honest, I'm not 100% certain where she's going to go with this. I think that's part of the cool adventure behind this, where it's she's out there in the field, and it's as she gets the job, she takes the job, she does what she does, and she's really good too. And that's just not me saying it. She's actually. Yeah, I've seen some of her photos she's done is really like, wow, that is awesome. So does
she do people, landscapes, kind of a little bit of everything, or
it's there's a lot of the images of people and just that kind of the artsy style to it, and stuff that you and I wouldn't think of. Hey, let's try this. She thinks of that kind of stuff.
It's cool. Well, good for her.
Yeah.
So Wonder Woman, you loved it. What did you like about it? What was I mean. Was it what you expected? Were you surprised? Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, you know what? It was what I was hoping it would be. It's a true Wonder Woman story, and they got her right. They got the character down. They've got her personality. It was one I did want to see. Some butt kicking Amazons, and I got to see that in in spades, man. That was awesome. Seeing just the Amazons, seeing the warrior behind them, but there was also just that the guardians of peace and the protectors of man. And I love the fact that the main reason she left the island was to stop Ares. It was to protect mankind, because that is the sacred duty of the Amazons. And I loved that, that she wasn't just, this warrior. She was the guardian of peace and the, protector of the innocent. And that for me has always been a really cool Wonder Woman theme, where it's not just, it's not just the way of the warrior. There's more to it. Like, because, even, in some of the runs where she was the god of war, there was always a conflict in her, that she was, an agent of peace. And even, if you think back to the book where eventually she becomes the goddess of peace, where, she drops the moniker of war. And that's the kind of thing, this Wonder Woman in the movies, I could see down the line becoming that character, becoming that where, she throws down, but it's not for war. It's not for violence. It's to protect the innocent. And I love just how they kept throughout that. They kept bringing that, that idea back of just the strong must protect the weak, and that throughout, even not just her, it was the characters. They started off a little bit on the dancing on the dark side, but you see them come over to the light. You see them each one by one be the hero and step up and say, we're going to protect these innocent people. We're going to sacrifice. We're going to, do, what needs to be done. And you always love seeing your heroes have that moment where they say, okay, I'm going to die right now. I'm okay with it. I die so others can live. And you love seeing that, in your heroes, and you love seeing that in your support cast, and you love seeing that, especially when it's done right, and this movie really covered those bases. They great emotional spectrum, action, hoorahing, tender moments, sad moments, funny moments. They hit all the nice emotional spectrum, and none of them outplayed or outweighed anything else. It was a great balance of one moment when you're laughing, another moment you're going, no!
You're right. And that was the nice part about it, was I thought the humor was well balanced. And I mean, we talked about this on the show last episode, but I didn't have a chance to talk about it with you. And it's fun. It's a fun movie to talk about with anybody, because everybody has a little bit of a different take on it, based on their experience. I haven't heard anybody who disliked it, which was interesting. I know the Zeus thing was something that people brought up that some of them didn't like. And I would say that that's probably people who aren't reading the current comics, just because they weren't aware that was a thing now, and it's actually from comic continuity. But I was glad they also brought in the Gumby background from the story with Mom.
Yeah, I really dig that. That was something I liked. But, it's funny because I liked how she's the daughter of Zeus, and I liked the Gumby background and how they played it out, because it worked great in the book. It worked great in the movie. The only thing I do miss is the gods being gone. Because I like Wonder Woman versus the Gods stories. I think those are kind of really cool, especially, you think about how that whole Hera story arc that she had, where she went massive, you look at how the journey of her and Hera and their relationship in the book, but it was funny because my brother actually pointed out, he's like, in the movie universe, this was a good usage of it. They introduced the gods, made them part of the story, and now they moved on. So Wonder Woman 2 it'll be about her. It won't be about this extended, background, but it's always going to be a part of her, but it's not going to be a central focus. It's not going to get something that, they'll get snagged on or anything like that. And I do agree with him that, in the movie universe, I understand why they did it, and I have no issues with what they did or how they did it, but yeah.
Well, here's the thing, though, and this isn't me disagreeing, it's more agreeing but adding. Here's the thing, the gods have disappeared from the comics before. So it's not unheard of what they did in the film. You could bring them back. Like, if somebody comes up with like an absolutely killer script that involves the gods, you bring the gods back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that could be the focus of one of the movies, is the gods coming back and there being a threat and that type of thing. I don't know. The nice part about it is, I agree with your brother. I'd love to see Wonder Woman 2 kind of move on from the origin and just tell a great Wonder Woman story. I think that's cool. I think this movie was so good that I'd like to see it continue to be treated with the same quality. And, maybe we get 3-4 Wonder Woman films or more, where we really, nice. Yeah, I mean, because it's a character who's got a lot of untapped potential. And I'm going to honestly say, out of all of the DC solo film projects, I'm most excited about the potential of where Wonder Woman can go after seeing this first film. I just thought it was a really great movie. I enjoyed it from start to finish. It had a great balance of everything. I thought it treated the character with nothing but respect. And I loved her just as much. Like Batman v Superman, she was the highlight. And in this, she was obviously the highlight, which we want. But the supporting cast was so good that there's really a great, well-crafted movie universe that you can do a lot with, as long as you take a look at this and say, okay, this is the formula now. You need to make sure that you put her with a great supporting cast and a great story, and this is a character who's really got potential. I was glad to see it's like $500 million, I think it's up to now, and I'm thrilled to see it being a huge success because without all the negativity, it's nice to see a DC movie that people are just kind of going, it's great.
It's a good movie. Yeah, I know. It's shocking and surprising.
Yeah,
like, wow. People actually like the movie. That's awesome.
And it is. It's nice because it just really is universally a fun, great movie that I think really does represent what I like about the DC universe.
Now it does hurt my conspiracy theories that I love to, hold on to, because I am a conspiracy theorist of the show. Mm-hmm. So, but the anti-DC movie, conspiracy theory out there that people are just hating it because it is DC. This is kind of crushing that, because people are like, no, see, here's a good movie we're going to follow and we're going to watch and enjoy. So it kind of does crush that theory of mine.
We'll see. Justice League is a big one for me because they're bringing all these characters together, and I'm this isn't conspiracy theorist at all. I think what worked about Wonder Woman is that they got the character so right. My hope is that they do the same thing with the others. I read a couple rumors today about Aquaman that I didn't quite care for. I don't know if they're true or not, so I don't want to... I'll say them, but I don't want to... Like that he was the son of Poseidon, and that there's a link to Wonder Woman and him being cousins because of that. Now, this is a rumor, so take it with a grain of salt. But that takes away the human parent, which that duality of him being a man of two worlds is something that... now, you could still bring that in and say that he was raised, out of the water by an adoptive father, and maybe that'll work for me. Even that rumor doesn't necessarily ruin for me what could be a great Aquaman movie, and I hope they do. I don't mind them adding something to his mythos as long as they don't take something away. And to me, his being raised on land, being that kind of fish out of water, and I really don't mean that with the pun that it sounded like, but it can't help it. I think that's an important part of the character's heritage, and also what makes him a very cool character to tell a story about, especially in today's day and age where people who are different are, I don't want to say persecuted because that's not global, but it's very hard when you encounter somebody who's different in this country because our country doesn't universally treat people well. No. And I think that I honestly think comic fans on the whole are a little above all this. You know what I mean? In the sense that I think your average comic fan, because we're all geeky nerds who've had our share of issues or, bullying or whatever, or, people not liking us for who we are, that type of thing. I think we tend to be, as a crowd, I don't want to make a generalization, but I would say your traditional comic fan tends to just be pretty chill. I honestly have met very few people who like comics that I don't like. And it's not because of comics. I just think that they're usually pretty nice people. But I think Aquaman's story, is a very contemporary story. And I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned in Aquaman's story. I thought Wonder Woman's story was delivered in a very contemporary way, too. So I'd like to see that, because I think when you start challenging society on some of its issues, in a story where it's true to the character. I think there's something that can be said there because he's a character who's dealt with persecution because of the fact that he was Atlantean. And when the Atlanteans did something, Aquaman was cast out from the people that he was raised as, so from his adoptive world. So I don't know. I'm anxious to see where that character goes. I'm tentatively saying I hope that rumor's not true just because I love his traditional origin. But I think you can give him his traditional origin while adding a new element in. And I don't know that I'm necessarily against it if it's done right for good storytelling. So I'm tentative on that rumor. But it's a rumor still. It could be, the whole thing could be bunk. And that's,
Yeah, see, it's like you. I got to wait to see it, to see how it actually plays out. But if I had my choice, I would say no. Yes. Let's not make him, half god. Let's make him half Atlantean, half human. Because I like that. Like you, I like that part of who he is, And again, the casting, I love the casting. When I heard he was getting cast as Aquaman, I hooped and hollered because just the actor can really pull off a badass. He can really do it well because he's got that physical presence of, he's got the warrior king presence to him. And I think that's something I think he can pull off, Aquaman, Arthur Curry very well. So I'm looking forward to seeing, seeing his performance.
He also has some range. So he can pull off vulnerable and he can pull off regal. And, there's all kinds of... you watch Game of Thrones? Did we ever discuss this?
I have seen enough, and I've seen, the seasons when he was on. So I've seen him as, was it the...
Khal Drogo.
Yeah, thank you. I kept wanting to say Kalis, but that's the Klingon. I'm like, no, he's not Kalis. No, he could pull off a cool Kalis.
Sure he could. So he tends to be one that I've seen him in just a wide variety of roles play a greater range for that character. Obviously, he's known for being more this, badass character, and he's cool for that. But I actually find what's interesting about him is that is usually where the character starts off, and then they start showing some more range. And I find him incredibly interesting because of that. So I'm cautiously... I've liked his casting since day one. So I'm hoping that the story matches the casting, I guess is really what I'm trying to say here. So any rumors that I hear, I'm going to take with a grain of salt and be open-minded about. I don't get it sometimes when they feel the need to take a character who works so well and make drastic changes to them like that. I sometimes don't understand that. But I'm hoping that overall, I'm curious to see what Barry Allen's going to be like. Yeah. Because here's the thing, the TV show's so good that that's going to be an interesting conundrum because I love the character of the Flash. So the scenes that I've seen so far, I like. I'm curious to see where the character's going to go. Cyborg looks sweet.
Yeah, I'm. It's when they first introduced. Well, I'm like you. I'm a Flash fan, and the actor. I'm a fan of the actor, but that going up against the TV Barry Allen is going to be a tough road. Then when they started talking about Cyborg, and I saw the initial scenes, when the initial stuff I saw in him, I was like, God, I don't know if they're doing this right. And then the more recent trailers, I'm like, oh, okay, they're doing a good job with it. Yeah.
Check.
Yeah, check. I'm from what I've seen, I think I'm going to be happy with him. So, because Cyborg's a character that lately I've really grown to love the character, and he's another one I didn't want to see them ruin the character on screen, and I'm comfortable with what we're going to get. I don't think we're going to have any issues there. And again, as you said with the Flash, the that's a good actor, so he's got he's got the range as well, where I've seen him do the goofy funny. I've seen him do the vulnerable. I've seen him do a little bit on the dark side. I've seen him embrace the different types of roles. So the actor himself can actually pull it off, but he's going to be compared to the TV Barry Allen, who in my head just is the Flash. He so has that character, and it's like the writing and everything they did for him. It's so spot on. I'm like, oh man, guys, I love the character of the Flash. So, But I don't know if you wanted to do that. I don't know if you want people comparing that one, the TV character who's had multiple seasons to grow and get everyone comfortable with, to a movie where he's sharing the spotlight with multiple characters. So you're not going to get that in-depth look at the Flash in that one movie. So he's going to be the one that's going to have I think it's going to have some tough criticism against him, and for no fault of his own, just because everyone has already a Barry Allen in their mind.
Yeah. I think that's going to be the interesting part. Do you wish they'd done the Flash as a different Flash?
No, because then I think it would have been considered more of a cop-out.
Sure.
I think and as much as I love the Flash, I would rather them have done Green Lantern. And have not have the Flash on the team.
Okay.
Even though I love the character, I would rather have seen Green Lantern, one, to get the taste of the other movie out of everyone's mind, say, no, this is right here. And I would have done Jon Stewart just because John's awesome. That's my Green Lantern, so.
I'm torn on that one because I'd like to see a great version of Hal. And I honestly think, here's the thing, I like the Green Lantern film. I thought Ryan Reynolds actually was good casting as Hal. I think the script didn't match the casting, although I would argue that the director's cut's a better movie. That being said, it was funny. On the last episode, Daryl and I talked about where Wonder Woman ranks. And I put it in my top 3 DC films of all time. Because I've seen it a couple of times now, and I just can't wait to see it again. It's in that category of I just know I'm going to rewatch that film over and over again. And that's what puts it in my top category. So like Green Lantern, I'm defending it, but here's the truth. When I sit down on a Sunday afternoon, I don't rush to go watch Green Lantern.
Yeah.
That says something. I love the character, but I'll go to watch the movie. So I went through my list, and my number one go-to is Superman 2. With General Zod and that whole bit. That's the one out of the Christopher Reeve movies that's my rewatchable over and over again. My number 2 rewatchable over and over again has become Batman Begins. I tend to, just because of the origin of Bruce, I just think it's so well done in that. His training, everything. My only flaw in that movie was the fact when he chose not to save Ra's al Ghul. I don't have to save you. I don't have to kill you, but I don't have to save you. That's not really Batman. But the rest of the movie I thought was, and I really loved it. Then this Wonder Woman movie is my third. I put him in that order. I know this is going to be that rewatchable film. I think they got this character so perfectly that that easily fits into my top 3.
Yeah. For me, it's probably Batman Begins as my number 1, with Wonder Woman being that such a close second that I can't really say between the two of them, because again, it's the Begins, I'll watch it. If I'm channel surfing and haven't done, I'll stop and watch it. Or I've watched the versions I have here in my house. Let me throw this in. Wonder Woman has that same kind of feel for me. When I walked out of the movie theater, I wanted to immediately turn back and watch it again. And you walk out there saying they got it right. They got it right. And that was my reaction to Batman Begins. They got it right.
How many versions of Batman Begins do you have?
I think I got like 2. I have when it first came out, and then they had a box set or something like that. So I've got that there. Yeah.
Yeah, I got the first version that came out. It's sad. I've got 3 versions of it. Okay. I was laughing when you said versions. I'm like, at first I was going to kind of go, well, how many versions do you have? And I'm like sitting here, I probably got more. What's wrong with me? I got the original release, and then they had some collector's edition that came with some collectible or something like that. And then I bought it digitally on iTunes, which makes no sense, I know, but I have Apple TVs in my house. And if you buy it on iTunes, I don't have to turn on my computer to end up watching it on my Apple TV. I can just watch it on the Apple TV by just clicking it and going. It streams. So I really like having, my favorite movies on my iTunes account. And I can do the same thing on any of my devices. I really quite enjoy that. So I don't know. So I own that movie multiple times too.
Yeah.
and I was ready to give you a hard time over it.
Uh-huh.
So you want to talk Dark Days, The Forge?
Yes, please.
Because this was really an interesting. I forgot it was coming out, and it was like a pleasant surprise. And it's really, I think the starring character of this really is what makes it work. Because when you take a look at a comic, you really need that character you can latch onto that has substance and a great story that you find compelling that makes you want to read the book. Of course, I'm talking about Hawkman. And they have the right origin of Hawkman in this. They've got, Carter Hall, the reincarnated Carter Hall. I really loved how they, just did the whole... I honestly, let me take the joking out of this because the tongue-in-cheek part. I really loved not only that they used Carter and Shira in this, but I loved what they added to the mythos and how they're making this part of the story. And the metal clearly is resonating with the fact that the metal comes from the earth, and now this metal is going to play some factor into this story. And this is a multiversal story. So I'm very curious to see where this message from Carter Hall's going and what it ends up meaning for this Dark Days tale. I know that I think the premise of this is Carter Hall's supposed to be dead, and this is his message from beyond, I think is the premise here. I know that's true of the miniseries he was in. So I don't know. I don't know what this piece is, but I would love at the end of this if somehow Carter Hall comes back, because I'm really digging the narrative from his perspective. I liked the shifting narrative where we had Carter Hall kind of giving like a layered history of metal, in the DC universe and what metal means. But then we switch to now in the Bermuda Triangle, and you start seeing there's something in the metal. Batman comes bursting in, and the only way to get this scientist out is to do this really cool escape sequence that involved Batman and Aquaman. And I really love when you see Batman on the edge, doing these moments where he's pushing himself to a place that no human should. And that escape sequence really gripped me from the beginning. It felt big. It felt action movie. When I think about the upcoming Justice League movie, for example, I want these kind of moments where there's an intensity. Like all of a sudden things just start happening. And they make sense to the context of the story. And you're following the story along as it goes. But big things are happening that require somebody like Batman to be involved with. It can't be just any other DC hero. Only Batman can get his way out of this one. And the interaction with Aquaman on this and the usage of him I thought was really great. Great example of terrific writing and pacing right from the opening sequences. Give us some history that's interesting and compelling, but then jump us into some, what just happened? That's sweet. I love that. I just really love that opening.
Well, it's, hitting hard and fast right out the gate, and I like that. You had that initial opening with with Hawkman, we're doing that, and I was laughing as I was reading, like, oh God, Sean's gonna be loving this. But then you go right into that from Hawkman into a cool Batman moment. I'm like, man, did they write this intentionally for Sean? I'm like, this right here was like, bam, I knew it would be a 1-2 for you. But to be honest, I gotta say it was a 1-2 for me as well. This was a really cool hero moment. And as you said, the interaction with Hawkman, with Aquaman and Batman, I do like when these heroes who should have a closeness, should have a friendship, should have some type of camaraderie, that you actually get to see those moments. And I like the fact that, when this all was going on, Aquaman calls him out on this, saying, hey, this is a Wayne Enterprises black site, an off-the-books drilling operation in my domain. And I love the fact that it was like he kept it from his friend. He kept it, and he calls him on this, saying, hey, what's going on here? What are you looking at? What are you looking for? And again, later on, when Bruce brings the site back up again, what's the first thing he says to Lucius? Nowhere near the ocean this time. Keeping it out of Aquaman's domain. One, because Aquaman will be looking for it, but two, out of respect for his friends. He doesn't want to have to lie to his friend again. I like that, that duality of Batman that we're seeing here.
There's also a third reason, though, and that's what I really love about the story. I agree with everything you're saying, but I would add to that to say this is something that's big, and Batman's clearly showing you that this extends beyond Atlantis. It's something that is a whole Earth problem. By exploring other areas, it's kind of broadcasting that, and I really dig that in this story. This feels out of the starting gate like a big event, because it feels like it's something that has a rich, ancient history to Earth. It's something that's been brewing over time, and it's a mystery that Batman has been researching on his own. and knows it's huge, which is why he's keeping it close to the vest. And I like that there feels like there's a reason. I don't want to. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the stealth plane and Lady Blackhawk and that whole bit. Knowing that there are agencies that are involved in this that are also aware and are keeping the secrets. And the question is why? What is their motivation? Where are they going with it? And how many camps are involved in this? And how many of them are linked and how many of them are not? This story starts to feel bigger and bigger because of the fact you're bringing in characters we haven't seen in the DC universe since the beginning of the New 52. And the more that we see characters developed in this, it's exciting. It's exciting right now. I actually find this refreshing because at the moment, and it's fine if it does tie in along the way, at the moment this story is not tied into the larger mystery of the DC universe that's going on with the Watchmen. Mm-hmm. And I actually like that right now it doesn't feel like it is. And it may connect back through later, and I'm fine if it does. I don't mean that as a negative. I just feel like it's really nice to read this and go, oh, there's some kind of unique big bad involved in this. And maybe it will all come back and connect to the bigger mystery, and I'm fine if it does. Right now, they've got me very focused on this as its own thing that has some deep roots in work that's been done leading up to it. And I'm curious to see where this is going.
One of the things I liked about this issue was, again, it was a limited usage of the internal dialogue. They had the Carter overlay, but like with these scenes between Batman and Aquaman, you're not seeing what they're thinking. The only thing you have are the words they're saying and the art that's being presented. Same thing, when Hal gets jumped into this, you're not seeing what he's thinking. You're just going by what we're visually getting, what the words that are on there. And again, when a writer and the artist working well together, which we have with this team, you really can pull that off nicely. And I like that, in my stories, because it gets me thinking, okay, what is Bruce thinking? Like how I said how I immediately said I was taking it away from the ocean as one, respect for his friend, but two, also the fact that if he puts it anywhere near the ocean, Arthur's going to be investigating it, and he doesn't want that. So I always took it as the double-edged, the two reasons behind it. Never had any inner dialogue saying that's what he was thinking. I was just going that based on this previous dialogue they had and what I know about Batman. And I like when a story does that. And I am, it's something that I notice more in books. Certain writers really heavily do that. Others use the inner dialogue, and I'm not knocking the usage of that inner dialogue. I like that, but there's certain writers I think who really know how to do that and how to work with their art teams. When you get the right combo doing it, you get some special stuff, and that's something we get special out of this out of the Forge.
I think you get special from both. I think I'm a fan of both, and I actually really do like it in this. So I'm echoing your comments. I think what I love is that comics right now don't have a formula. I think the best comics, I should say, don't have a formula that they have to follow, where you have to use this much internal dialogue, you have to use this much of that. I like that as an artistic medium, writers and artists are exploring how to tell a story. And I think there's some basic tenets of what makes a comic book story work, sure, but I think there's a lot of elasticity in following those steps to get from beginning to end to make a compelling book. And I think we're seeing a lot more of that right now, and it's getting me excited. You're right, the thought balloon going away in a lot of books because they don't need it in that particular story is great. I find it just as compelling when they do need it, but I think letting the creative teams make that decision based on the story they're trying to tell and the atmosphere and mood they're trying to deliver, I think is the way to go about it, and it's working really well. Hal Jordan being on his own, I like how this feels like it's Hal Jordan as we know him now in his own books. Mm-hmm. He's being pulled from his mission by one of the Guardians for the purpose of, hey, we got a big threat going on here. There's this dark secret that's being revealed right now. And he knows it's being revealed at the Batcave. And I absolutely loved the bits with Duke when he was working with Hal on that. It just was, I thought they were really a great sequence of events, where we still don't have a code name for him. But this is the miniseries supposedly where he's getting one. So, cool. through this event, he's supposed to finally get his code name, and we get to know a little bit more about what that looks like. But I really enjoyed this opening with him, seeing him be initially effective against Green Lantern, and even the question about the yellow. Hey, isn't yellow not supposed to work with you? It does when you know.
Yeah. Oh, and the art sequence in that, I love that moment when Hal's there, when he first lands, and if you look in the upper corner, the shadow, you can see Duke right there. So the artists, they were ready for, I love how they put him in there, and then he comes on and strikes in the next panel. I thought that was something I noticed in my art read through. I'm like, oh, there he is, cool. I love when artists do that, when they give us that little bit just off camera, if you well, not off camera, but just right in the upper corner of the panel. So yeah, but echoing everything you said, I love this banter, this dialogue, and this especially this is something that grew in this issue. This is. Hal's never dealt with Duke before, and Duke's never dealt with a Green Lantern, I'm assuming. And it was kind of cool to see, again, the two of them explore this secret cave inside the secret cave.
I want to know what's going on with the Immortal Men.
Yeah.
And, Duke's mom and Duke in general. What does this mean for his story? I like that this is turning out to be an expansion of what we know about Duke. It's making this very interesting to me. And we shift from that right to some of the best sequences that really should be spun off into their own comic book. Anytime you see the Hawks fighting on any level, you really should take a look at that and go, you know what? These pages really should just be more and should be in their own. I kid you not, I really would love to have seen this variation of them with this writing spun off into their own series.
Yeah.
Because I want to read these characters.
And I agree with you. It was funny. I'm agreeing with you. I'm laughing at you, but I'm still agreeing with you because I did like that sequence when they showed them throughout the years, and I even know a couple of them, like, with the cowboy versions of them. I've read a couple of stories of them, and you got the pirate, or whatever, the musketeer version. So I was like, okay, that's kind of neat, so. I don't know their names, or I don't know if I've read a story of them, but I liked seeing that little panel, that one panel of them, throughout history.
I wish that run had a longer life, where they started using those characters, and telling a little bit of the Hawks' history, because I really enjoyed seeing their past, how their past lives worked, and their battles with Hasset and all that. I applaud them for bringing that into present continuity. And going, no, this is it. This happened, and that stuff was really great.
Then, of course, Carter's Nightmare, which, the Dark Days, we have this massive statue of Batman with people lashed to the legs of the statue and what looks to be evil drones that are flying around. And I'm like, oh, okay, Batman kind of goes over the edge a little bit, which I don't think it's going to be a hard push to send him over the edge because of all the superheroes in the DC universe. He is the one who is the most tightly wound.
But it's a dark multiversal storyline, so is that our Batman?
Could be.
Because this was billed as a dark multiversal story. So do we know that that's our Batman?
No, we don't know.
Because
and that very easily could be.
Here's the original the original advertisement for this: Dark Days. What is the dark multiverse? And it shows that statue of Batman with our Batman looking at it. The Forge, the prelude to the epic event Metal. Is that our Batman? I don't know that it is. I don't know that it's not. But when you're talking about a dark multiversal story, that implies that there's a possibility it's not.
Right. But again, as always with these multiversal stories, you're wondering, are they going to try to bleed over into this world, or, what's the deal with this? And again, you never know. It's, because, I don't know. And to be honest, I would guess that this is not our Batman doing this, but you never really know. It's one of those things. Maybe there's a possibility of a corruption and or dark turn for Bruce, or maybe this is a Elseworld, or maybe this is Damian. That could be a statue of Damian for all we know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to be curious to see where that story winds up going. Now, Mr. Terrific, seeing him brought back, I'm a big Mr. Terrific fan in general, and seeing him come back and be a little bit more like the Mr. Terrific I know and love, because I think he's had since the New 52 has had kind of a mixed, I don't want to say origin, a mixed storytelling, where trying to pin down exactly who Michael Holt is he's a character I think has taken a step back, and this one feels very good. Very much what I like about Mr. Terrific. I love when they open up, it's time to let him out, and they open it up, and of course it is Plastic Man.
Yeah, I know, and I was like sitting there going, because when he first opened, I'm like, it looks like Plastic Man. But, it was, again, it's one of those things where I don't have a lengthy history with Plastic Man other than that one story we read and the cartoon. So he's not somebody I would ever pick to be some unstable thing that we have, the world depends on it. We need to get Plastic Man. That's something I'm like, because I was completely surprised by that.
That's
Don't know.
That's actually Baby Plas.
Oh, okay.
From the cartoon. Cause,
no, that was Plastic Man.
No, that's Baby Plas. Remember the cartoon had Baby Plastic Man?
Yeah, they did have Baby Plas, but also
no. That's Plastic Man. I agree. I'm kidding. Okay. I'm kidding.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm giving an honest answer to you.
Yeah.
One of the times I proved I'm an idiot. But seriously, though, does Plastic Man have this massive power range, or is there something I'm missing?
So what power levels from this do you think they're implying for Plastic Man? Because I know that they feel that they need Plastic Man for this, but I'm not seeing an indication of what power levels they're looking for.
Well, it's... I don't know, when, they're sitting there talking, the page right before you get the bubble, it's time to let him out of the box. You damn right it is. And you see kind of with the grin, and it just seems like they're saying it's, whatever this great big bad is, they need Plastic Man for it. And it just, to me, it's like an implied, okay, it's time, we gotta pull out the big guns. And that's when I read it, that's what I was implying, because I'm wondering, they're going to this big massive vault where he's at. I'm like, okay, what's in there? Then I flip the page and I'm like, Plastic Man. Okay, not who I was expecting. I was expecting something, something more substantial. And that's, I guess it's just my reading into it that there's just something, and especially like, why do you need this containment unit for Plastic Man? And there's so much I don't understand.
Well, they were extracting molecules from him, and that he was unstable. So I wonder if the unit that he was in was also to try and stabilize the instability.
That could be definitely as well. Okay. Yeah, again, I don't understand, what's going on. I think that's something.
I'm with you. Wait, and by the way, let me say that.
Oh, okay.
I'm giving you what my guess is, not necessarily. I'm not set in stone on that. I'm with you. I'm still confused, but I feel that we're supposed to be. I feel there's a mystery here.
Okay, cool. I'm not the only one. Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, so I shouldn't say that I'm saying that like I believe it's set in stone. That's my current theory. We'll see where it goes. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say just, the Batcave sequences that follow this up. Uh-huh. Did you see the swerve coming? Because I will admit I did not see the swerve coming.
No, I didn't. Yeah, I did not see where this was going to go. What did you think was going to happen?
With the Batcave?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I was trying to figure out who that mysterious voice was. And I like Duke had no idea who it was. And part of me was actually thinking that it was going to be Carter. That it was going to be a disembodied version of Carter, which is why, you had the weird looking bubbles behind it. It was like maybe like Carter trapped in the nth metal talking to them or something like that. Or because I was thinking, is that Carter that they're going to?
Yeah, it's not, obviously.
Right, obviously it's not. But when I was reading this, that's what I was thinking. Because I was thinking at it is because we had the Carter Hall journal. So I'm like, okay, so, we've got this journal that obviously, this is what I was thinking in my head. Obviously, Bruce had got his hands on the journal because he's Batman, so he had that knowledge. And then during doing his experiments, he somehow found Carter trapped in the nth metal and this and that. That started the whole mystery going through, and that was like going to be either the disembodied Carter Hall trapped in some nth metal or something like that. I wasn't thinking where they were going with it. That was because again, it's the whole with the how the way the word bubbles are, how they're kind of like phantasmic.
The Joker was great in this, and here's the thing that was kicking myself, because I follow previews and I like to know what's upcoming. I don't like to be spoiled. It's one of the reasons why we do put a spoiler warning on this show. But I knew the Joker was a part of this event. I don't know why I didn't know it was him. You know how you're reading something, you're like, oh, doggone it, I should have known all along it was him. This was one of those moments for me. I should have known it was him. And I really quite liked how they played this out, because I feel like I didn't see it coming, and yet I felt like I should.
Yeah.
And that was something that was interesting. I don't want to move on without saying how much I liked the appearance of the Outsiders in the Rebirth version. Being able to see it's all the right players with a slight variation on costumes to make them a little bit more, modern to today. But overall, it's the same people that we know and love. And I'm a big fan of that team, Batman and the Outsiders. So I'm glad that they found a way to incorporate it into the new continuity.
And again, I like how Duke, was like, wait, Batman's got a Black Ops team? So once again, Batman is a man of secrets on top of secrets on top of secrets. And it's funny because in this, yes, he is that man of mystery. He has those secrets, but I really did get the feeling from this one. He's not keeping information from people out of lack of trust. It's more of, and he even says this later on to Superman, how he's not keeping everyone out of it. He's got to get a firm grasp on what it is before he pulls the team into it. And I think that's, I really got that feeling from him in this, even though there's still a little bit of you wondering, is that the case? Or is he keeping this from people because he doesn't trust them, or because what's the true motivation behind Batman? And I always like that with Bruce, because the way he is, there always is going to be a little bit of question as to why is he doing something.
I like the introduction to the idea of the three tribes. Well, actually four.
Yeah.
With the Bat tribe in there. I thought it was cool to see that piece. I always liked, this is the reason why I liked the space cop being rolled into the history of the Hawks, because I always liked the idea of the archaeologist who knew a lot about the history of Earth in the DC universe. And stuff like this, Carter Hall's the perfect narrator for, in the way he does it. I also like, when you take a look, there's the different variations on his Hawk helmet.
Yeah.
That changed over time. Little details like that in the artwork I really appreciated in this. This had a number of artists involved. And it was pretty apparent to me throughout it, because they were artists that were your top tier artists, but they have very different styles. So it was apparent, but I actually it didn't bug me in the slightest. I really found this to be a very pretty book. Usually I'm more a fan when you combine artists, that you have artists that are very complementary to each other. This was like a jam piece that just worked for me. There's no other way to put it. It really felt like it felt like a jam piece.
Dude, that's a perfect assessment of it. And to be honest with you, with me, when I was my first read through, I was just reading it, and there was never any jarring moments. And then when I did my art read through is when I really started seeing, I started seeing the different art teams working on the different stuff. But when that first initial read through, I just took it as slightly different looks because of different areas and different events and whatnot. It wasn't a change in the team. So they really did a good job with meshing which teams were working on which images, which, where they were, their placement in the book. So again, like in as you said, with a true jam band where you get, actual these talented musicians who complement each other, who play, it's not just about them and, shining the spotlight. It's about the overall sound that's created. That type of analogy for this book is perfect, because this wasn't about how cool the Hawk scenes look, or how cool Batman and Superman looked, or the green, scenes. This was about the overall look of the book, and does it flow, and does it connect, and does it fit, and does it feel right? And it 100%, looks, the story being told, the images that are portrayed in there, everything really just jived well. And I was like, absolutely, I really enjoyed the look as well as the story of this. This was a great usage of the creative teams.
There's one area where you're wrong. And I really try not to say that to you, but this is one where I've got to correct you. Because you were saying a lot of things that are absolutely true, and I was just nodding along the way. Then all of a sudden you said something horribly jarring that just showed it's very rare that I would ever say to you that, Jim, you're just wrong and misguided. But one of the things that you said was it's not about how good the Hawk scenes look. And Jim, it is about how good the Hawk scenes look. That's just really the truth of the matter is that's when those scenes hit and you turn those pages and the Hawk scenes look good, it becomes all about how good the Hawk scenes look, because the Hawk scenes look sweet. I am so salivating for a Hawk book that when you see these sequences where you see the craft there and the history, and I love the whole Egyptian kind of premise. That part really, the new Assassin's Creed Origins, they were doing this at E3 this year, showing the demos of it, and it's set in Egypt, and it's going to be the first game of the series that goes that far back and takes place in Egypt. I'm super psyched to play that because I like that setting, and some of it is due to the Hawks and that whole world. And it's funny how I was watching the game, man, this would be a great Hawkman game. Then all of a sudden we see Hawkman in this, and it's set in Egypt, and I'm like, yes, they're putting in the pieces that I like. I'm so happy. And here's the thing, I say, when I always refer to the Space Cop Hawkman, it sounds like I don't like that version. I do. I liked the way, I think the problem is I'm very attached to how Jeff Johns wrapped up the Hawk history in a nice, neat bow with the return of Hawkman in the JSA series. He basically found a way to say, hey, it all happened because of reincarnation. That was the same guy. So I like Space Cop when I feel like Space Cop is the same guy. When he doesn't feel like he's the same guy, it loses me. This has done a great job of showing us, well, wait, guess what? He is the same guy because this guy exists. And so that probably isn't a reincarnation of him. So I don't know. I'm just very into that whole piece.
It's funny. Here's something I will correct. I've said in the past, because I always said in the past I like the Space Cop over the Archaeologist. Mm-hmm. And I will, again, it's one of those things where through multiple readings, through, further just delving into the Hawks the TV show version of the Hawks, everything that, my Hawk exposure, I really have to agree with you on the Archaeologist and just the, this long history and the reincarnation stories and everything they've done with the Hawks. I really do like that. And I think that's something that, I'm like, hey, yeah, and I still dig the Space Cop because that's kind of neat with the aliens, but this archaeologist, this scientist who has that warrior in him, but it's not just all brawn. There is brain there. And I agree with you. I like that story being told. So like you, I'm with you for a Hawk story and a Hawk series, and let's bring back the Hawks.
With the right creative team.
Yes.
Paul Miotti and Gray, when they did it, it's the Jonah Hex team. When they did it, they did such a bang-up job with it that I would love to see somebody who has a take on it that I can do a take that surprises me. I think that's what I'm looking for. That is very true to the character, but a take that surprises me. So we get to the Arctic Circle and the Fortress in Solitude, and I gotta say, with what's happened with Superman and kind of the clarification on where he's at now, I really dig any appearance of these two together because there's that sense of familiarity and history between these two because the way Superman carries himself. I really love the interactions between the two. I just think this was a very well-written sequence. Especially when we got Mr. Miracle coming in, they're trying to break into that room. It just felt like very, when you look back at like the Silver Age of comics, a lot of times people say that certain elements of, and I would even argue that certain issues of that don't hold up as well. They're more nostalgia pieces because they were campy, right? Mm-hmm. But they introduced a lot of cool concepts that, if you modernize them, are sweet. So you look back and go, okay, actually when the Silver Age was going, that was cutting edge and innovative, what they were doing. So how do you take those cutting edge innovative concepts and make them very cool? This story's doing a great job of, they incorporated a lot of what makes DC great into this story all the way through. A lot of the sense of history, a lot of the sense of longevity of characters, a lot of the sense of big things being locked up in the Fortress of Solitude that make you wonder, how big is this place? And I like that. I like that kind of stuff too.
Well, and you talk about the dynamic between Batman and Superman. I love the fact that he has a secret room hidden inside the fortress. A couple of years ago, a guy said, "Hey, don't look in there. I won't." And of course, Clark hasn't, because that's Superman. Superman wouldn't break his word. But it was just the fact that he would do that. And then he's like, with the key, like, well, what did you do with the key? I shot it into the sun. That's a joke, right? Right? No, he shot the key into the sun so no one could get access to that room. I love just these moments of, where you see where Batman's going, where Superman is and who he is. And even that great scene, that little bit scene between the two of them where he's like, "Hey, you need me for this. I'm here." He's like, "Don't keep me out of it." He's like, "No, I gotta figure this out, and then we'll get the team involved." And I love that. I love that moment between the two of them. That respect between the two of them. That was just a really cool Batman Superman moment.
I agree. The whole Mr. Miracle sequence, that's a character. What is your take on Mr. Miracle? Do you like Mr. Miracle as a character? I mean, we've seen different variations on him. Do you like the concept of Mr. Miracle? Is it one of those that you get excited about when you see it? Or is it kind of a mixed bag for you? Or is it something you're not interested in at all? Where are you at with that character?
I don't know him well enough to have an opinion on him, to be honest with you. I know he's a new god. I know he's this great escape artist, and that's all I really know about him. My new god knowledge is very limited and very, very few in my readings of him. I think if the only time I've really read stories with him in it are stories we've talked about on the show.
Sure.
So however number of times we've talked about him. So it's, again, I don't have any negative against him. I don't have anything positive because I don't know who he is. So
and this isn't Shiloh Norman, which we read in Seven Soldiers.
Right.
This would be the original Mr. Miracle, Scott Free. I read him as a kid in the JSA JLA crossovers. George Perez did the artwork on it. And it was this big Dark Side crossover. And it just had every hero you could throw at it in the story. But it had the New Gods. It had JSA, JLA. It was part of their annual thing. And it was multiple issues that crossed over into this. It was a big story. And as a kid, I was blown away by the scope and scale of it. Because it was like an event before there was events, because it took place in Justice League, so it wasn't like something you got like 87 titles from. They wouldn't do that back then. But this felt like that. And I remember reading this story and just being blown away by the scope and scale of these characters and the idea of the multiverse and what it means when you've got characters like Darkseid on Apocalypse and stuff like that. It just was really neat. So I've got a soft spot for him. I've got to admit, like you, I haven't read a ton of Mr. Miracle. I'm more familiar with the character than you are, but I wouldn't say I don't consider myself a Mr. Miracle expert. I have a soft spot for him for those crossovers more than anything else, just because this character's appearances tend to lead to happy things for me and storytelling. So that really tends to be more of where I like with the character. The way this story wrapped up with the Joker.
Well, hold on one quick second before we go to the Joker.
Sure.
Do you know what that tower thingy is? Because I don't. I have no idea what that is. Do you have any idea?
No.
Okay.
Other than they're using it like a compass to follow whatever it is that they're looking for. So I don't know. It's whatever's the metal, right?
It looks like I'd say that's nth metal. because the nth metal always has like a kind of a goldish hue to it. So I'm assuming that's a giant nth metal something. But again, that's why I was like, I didn't know if it was something from DC lore or that you would know that I have no idea. So we're both okay in the what is this? Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
And it is, whatever it is, it's something they can follow the dark energy with, so I don't know. I don't know what that machine is. I'm glad you're stopping to talk about that, actually, because that's an interesting point. I don't know. I don't know if it may be something from lore that I'm not aware of, and I'm actually, that would be way cool, or it may be a new construct for the purpose of the story, and that's perfectly fine for me, too. So the Joker, when he comes back in now, is this the reincarnated Joker? Is he the one, is that what we're dealing with here?
Yeah. This is, I'm assuming, this is the one who, when they were, when Bruce died, he came back, and this was that guy. The death of the family Joker.
The park bench, the one, but also the guy who was sitting on the park bench with him, right?
Right. Yeah. The one who actually knows, who knows Bruce's secret, who knows, everything about him, and knows how to get into the cave, and maybe this is how he got in the cave, or who knows, this is the park bench Joker, that whole guy, all that in one, that's this one. That's how I read it as.
I can't wait to see where this story goes. For an initial first issue on this one flew for me. Because it was an oversized issue. And it read to me, I was like, oh, we're done? Like, where's more? Please more. I really found this to be an exciting opening to an event that I hope delivers on the level of the initial kickoff story.
Oh, God, yeah. This was, I'm so glad you said, hey, let's do this one, because this was a great intro and a beginning to an intro into a series and into a big event, and it's one of those things where I was glad that, because one, I had no idea this event was coming. I saw the pre-orders, I had ordered the stuff, but I didn't know anything about it. So this is how you do a preliminary. This is how you do the intro. This is how you do the prelude to it to really get you going. Okay, I want more. And there's I guess another prelude issue coming out. I'm chomping at the bit for that one. I want this metal to get started. I'm very excited. Very what's this? What's that? Kind of anticipation.
I think the other issue comes out this week.
Oh, cool.
If I remember correctly. If it's not this week, it's next week. But the next issue is coming out this month, and I'm really excited to read it. So, can we talk about Batman 24? Every epilogue is a prelude. If we have time, we might chat a little bit about the Swamp Thing issue too. But I don't think we're going to get to it because we want to do a piece talking about Adam West. So I really want to make sure we leave time for that one. This was a surprise issue for me because in issue 24, we're seeing a lot more of that continued focus they've had on Batman and Catwoman, and I really like her making more regular appearances in the Bat books. I've been a big fan of solo Catwoman, so this is not me knocking that. I'm a huge fan, but I like you and I have both talked about. You actually go, I think, a little bit more to the extreme. I would say you do go more to the extreme than I do as far as wanting to see some progression, a sense of. And I hope this goes somewhere. We're going to jump right to it, and we'll talk about how we got to it, because I think we might as well go right to the event, right? Bruce proposes to her.
Oh, God, yeah. And I was sitting there, I'm reading this, because it's funny, I hadn't read this issue yet, and, when we were talking about the episode, hey, let's do Batman 24. And it's funny, because I first thought, oh, they're doing a new series called Batman 24. So I'm looking for Batman 24. I'm like, oh, Sean meant Batman issue number 24. I'm like, and then I was sitting there like, why does Sean want to do another Bat? We just talked Batman. I'm like, okay. So I, pull out the issue, and I hadn't read it yet, and I'm going through it, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's why he wants to talk about that was, and again, it was a great lead into the proposal. And I was like, because I'm, throughout this issue, it's Bruce dealing with Gotham Girl. They show flashes of the cat, flashes of the bat. I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of a neat episode, a neat issue, and then bam, ending with the proposal. I was like, holy crud, that is huge. That is awesome. I absolutely just, again, loved how this played into it. Now, my personal prediction is she's going to say no. She's not going to say yes. And I think the reason she's going to say no is she realizes he's in an emotional state right now. And I don't think she's going to trust that he actually wants to marry her. He's just he's emotionally torn right now. I think she is going to recognize that with him, just everything that's happened to him. She's going to see he's not, or she's going to think he's not of the right frame of mind. He's not being Batman, and I think she's going to say no.
Is it though? Because he talks about, okay, let's go to the proposal, and then we'll jump back a bit. When I first met you on that boat, we met on the street. On the boat, the diamond you stole. After I got it back, I bought it. I've had it for years. And she's like, what? So this is not something that's because of some kind of emotional... This is something that deep down in his gut he always wanted. Mm-hmm. So I knew, even at the beginning, I knew I'd need it. I needed it, just like I need you. Admitting he's scared, I don't think is from such a crazy emotional place. It's more of he's taken a step. He's shut people out, and now he's taking this step to say, I love you, marry me. Whether she says no or not, I hope this is not dropped, because I want this to go somewhere. I really want this to go somewhere. I'll say that. If they don't, and they kind of, find a way to make this fizzle or something like that, and there's some kind of reason why they do, okay, I'm going to be honest, I'm interested. I'm interested in seeing this going. I've always liked the idea that Batman marries Catwoman. I've always liked that idea. They've never done it real time. In current continuity and all that. I would, and you might disagree with me on this, and it's fine if you do. I have always felt that the two of them belong together, and would like to see the journey. Like you said, she's going to say no. I'm fine with that as long as it's not ending the journey.
Yeah.
I want the journey to continue with this, because I think this could lead to some really compelling storytelling. I'm fine with a no, as long as the no is for more than just, she's going to say no and then, well, now we're moving on. And I don't have any problem with her acknowledging any emotional state that he is as being part of the reason. But I don't want that to be so true that this falls apart.
And let me clarify my stance. First off, I'm 100% in favor of Bruce and Selina marrying, and I would love to see this. And like you, I think they have some great stories they can tell with these two, just because of the logistics between Batman and Catwoman getting married. Is Bruce Wayne can't marry Selina Kyle, because Bruce Wayne can't get married. So that's going to throw off a whole, thing, because one, that would really, or will they have it be Bruce Wayne marries Selina Kyle, a known cat burglar who's wanted by the police, or is, because there's so many different things they can do. I said she's going to say no as the initial thing. That's going to be her initial answer. I think issue 25, it's going to be her saying no, and then I don't want it to be dropped there. I want Bruce then to fight for this woman that he loves, fight for this woman who he needs to have in his life. And I want to see them,
Sure.
work through it and have that moment where she looks at him and goes, ask me again. And bam, and you have that moment where, they say yes, and it's that, I want to see these two together. I want to see, I'm the helpless romantic when it comes to my superhero characters, and especially these two. I want to see them together because I think it would tell an absolutely wonderful story. Where, again, as I said, just a couple quick stuff there with who's getting married. Is it Batman and Catwoman? Is it Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle? How are they going to handle that? She's wanted by the cops. She's wanted for multiple murders, and it's not just wanted for jewel thieves. She's wanted seriously. Interpol and everybody is out to get her. How can Batman deal with that? How can Bruce Wayne deal with that? These are so many stuff that they can go with, just on, and heck, let's add to it. I want to see the bachelor party, You figure with the Bat family, you throw in, the various superheroes that he is friends. That could be a very interesting moment and some funny, and Damian, how is Damian going to react to the marriage? How is, the wedding? There's so many different stuff they can do, with these two getting married, just beyond the initial, this really cool, heartfelt, emotional stuff. This is Batman dropping the cowl, exposing, opening up a vein and just letting the emotions out. And I love those moments, especially his admittance that I am so scared. I love that moment where he's just, you know, the way it's written, you know, you see his head down, his eyes are closed. It's completely just open and vulnerable to her. I love this stuff. And I'm 100% for it. I just think we're going to get, it's going to go around and around. And I think that's going to be some cool story. I hope it ends with them getting married.
Now, can I ask you a question about this? Because I'm interested in this. Because you referenced the fact that he's so emotional. I guess I read the issue, and I think he's more emotionally open and more willing to share his vulnerabilities than we've seen from Batman before. But I didn't take it as I took that as emotional growth, not emotional damage. Are you reading that differently than I am, or are you seeing elements of something than I am? Because I guess he was opening up to Gotham Girl in a way that I thought was to help her. So he was opening up his own vulnerabilities to give her comfort, but also to give her strength. So I guess I wasn't reading that as something Selina would go, dude, you're a mess. Any more than the two of them would naturally say, we're a mess, because they are. But I mean, I didn't take it as, if I could honestly make a strong argument to just say, no, Bruce, look, we're both a mess. We've always been a mess. I could see that being a justification, but I wouldn't say like anything from what I've been reading in this particular issue shows him to be any more of
right. Yeah. And again,
an oddball than normal.
Yeah, and let me clarify. When I'm saying she's going to tell him no because of the emotional stuff going on, I'm not talking she's going to say you're an emotional mess. I agree with you. This is his emotional. He's doing emotional growth. I'm talking about, you look at the fact that, you know, with the death of Tim, though Tim's not dead, Bruce thinks he is. Look at what happened with him running into his father and dealing with all that craziness. Look at, you know, stuff that just happened with Swamp Thing, things that, you know, everything that's going on in his life and recently, there is a huge roller coaster of emotion. And she could very easily, especially part of her vulnerabilities of not wanting to be hurt. Catwoman comes across as this, this hardened cat, burglar. I'm tough, but she's got, a soft side to her. She's got that vulnerable side. And she also has those same kind of barriers that Bruce has. So one of her main defenses could be telling Bruce, hey, you're just saying this because of all the stuff you've been through. So I'm thinking, when I'm saying she's going to say that to him, I think that's going to be her defense for her personal emotional baggage, for her own emotional defenses. And that's why I think, she'll say that, and then Bruce will fight back. And again, we'll see the emotional growth of Bruce. Instead of his first reaction, you would think someone says, no, your first reaction is to leave. I think we're going to see Bruce stand his ground, and we're not going to see Batman stand his ground. We're going to see Bruce Wayne stand his ground and say, no, this is what, this is who I am. This is what I'm feeling. And I think we're going to get, 25 is going to be another cool moment of, between them. But I also think we're going to get some action thrown in there that's going to kind of, put everything off kilter. And then, what's going to happen? And they're going to dance that route is how I'm seeing this story going. But again, I agree with you that we're seeing Bruce Wayne, and this has been something that's been, over throughout this run, that we're seeing a Bruce Wayne who's becoming more in touch with his feelings. We're seeing somebody who's more of a team player. He's not just the lone bat. He's got his Bat family. When he trusted Batwoman with her mission. He trusted, Duke with his own stuff, with Dick with his stuff. It's not just about my way or the highway. It's our way. It's the Bat family. It's this team dynamic. For that, Bruce has done some major emotional growth. So I think this is going to be two people who have very similar defensive mechanisms, who have very similar standoffishness, who have very similar, who keep guarded, who are going to realize that they are perfect for each other. They need each other. And it's just like how he said, I need you. And these two do need each other. And I think these two together would be amazing. And I think that's something that we're going to get over this process. And as I said, eventually we're going to have that moment when she's going to either she's going to look at him and say, ask me again, or she's going to propose to him. One of the two. I'm not sure how they're going to play it, how they would play it. But I'm thinking we're going to get that moment where there's another proposal, and that's where it answers with a big old yes, and it'll be a hoorah kind of moment.
What would you do if, like, issue 25 starts off and they're already married? Like, and they go, well, that happened.
My jaw would hit the ground, and I'd be like, okay, I'm an idiot. I didn't see any of that. Well, like,
because they acknowledge the fact that, like, listen, Bruce, we couldn't get married, so we had to elope and just kind of do it under assumed names. So we're married. Yay.
You know what? If that's 25, like, okay, let's see where this story goes. Because, again, this is one of those, the creative team on this book, I trust. So if they give, how many times have I had a theory that was completely wrong and said, you know what, I like their story better. So right in my head, I'm telling you the ideas and the stories I have in my head, we'll see what we actually get. We'll see how right I am, how I could be completely off kilter, and we'll see what the story comes out. It's, but again, this is how I see the story playing out. Now, if issue 25 opens up with her jumping in his arms saying yes, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Because we'll see where the story goes, and let's tell the story. Because again, I want to see these two together, so I will be happy if they say yes. Like you, I don't want to see this fizzle. I want to see if this doesn't actually happen. I want a concrete story saying why it doesn't happen. I want to see exactly what is the cause, what is, causes this breakup, causes this not to work out. I want to see that play out. In the end, I want to see a success. I want to see a marriage. But if it's not going to happen, give me the full story as to why it doesn't happen. I want to see these two fight for this relationship that they have.
Do you think it's braver for them to get married or not to get married?
Oh, definitely braver for them to get married.
Yeah.
Because there's so much, you think back, the married Superman, how many times did they fight that?
Yes.
And how many great stories do we get because Lois and Clark are together?
Yes.
When, and actually it's, how many times has Bruce had a partner, in this with him? I'm talking a female partner, someone who's not just, I personally, he's had a lot of relationships, but he's never had the only really long-term relationship he's ever had has been this crazy thing he's got going on with Selena, and I say crazy in that it's a roller coaster that you never know exactly where these two are going to land.
He's had some. Silver St. Cloud. I'm going back though. And kind of, this isn't invalidating you. It's more of your argument's valid because it's been a long time and many continuities ago.
And to be honest, think about it. Was the Silver St. Cloud relationship pre 1 year later? Because that's my jumping on point, remember?
Oh, yeah. No. And wait, Jim. No. Look, you're saying pre 1 year later. I'm going way before that to the point where...
Exactly.
How much continuity is it in? I think the closest would have been his relationship with Sasha Bordeaux, who we both loved from Ruka.
Yeah.
And, Bruce has been one of those tragic characters. These two, I would love to see it happen. I really would love to see it happen. I don't know if it will, but, man, I really enjoyed the Gotham Girl story in this one, where we got to see him open up his vulnerability and talk to her about the fact that I'm going to get you trained. I'm going to get you trained so you can do this superhero thing that you want to do and not have to use your powers. And only use your powers when absolutely necessary so your longevity is increased. I get that you want to do it. I'm going to support you. And I really thought that was a very mature way of handling her. Instead of saying, which is typical classic Batman would have been, I'm not going to let you. This is my city. I say you're not going to do it. He recognized she's going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So the best thing you can do is support her and give her the best possible toolbox to live the longest possible life doing what she intends to do. And I thought that was really a cool moment because he's got those connections. And he's a self-trained guy, who knows the value of, hey, if you hone yourself and train yourself and really want to do this, you can do so much of it without having to use powers. And I really loved that compelling story. Like the humanity of Bruce Wayne comes across here and really comes across as the real Bruce Wayne. This is not the Bruce Wayne that's the playboy. This is not the Batman under the cowl. This is the real dude, the real deal in those sequences. And I really love Batman stories that showcase this person, because I don't think we get to see him very often. And when you see him, it's something special and unique. And this story really has me gripped right now. It's one of the reasons you were right at the beginning. Like, I don't have to talk Batman again. And I could talk Batman forever. I mean, I love the character. But on the show, you're right. Traditionally, if I know we've done a Batman current continuity story, I try to jump to somebody else because we want to, talk about some of the other great characters and other great stories that are going on in the DC Universe. This was one when I saw it, I'm like, oh, there's no way. Because this goes from this into the War of Jokes and Riddles.
Yeah.
Which is the Riddler versus Joker story arc. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out into that and what it means for these two.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm thinking we're going to get an initial no. Because and then that story pops up. They deal these two I think are going to deal with that together. I think we're going to get a Bat and Cat team up against the Joker and Riddler, or a three-front war, or however that story is going to play out. So again, I'm really looking forward to issue 25. This is one of those where I'm not gonna wait for my paper version to arrive. I'm going to get the digital version. I'm gonna jump on that thing right away as soon as it comes out, because I'm not waiting. I got to hear her answer, and that's again great tease. This is a great way to end an issue, and then also they're laying down this. We're gonna get this Riddler Joker story as well on top of it. So we've got this going on. We've got that coming down right now. Really good time for Bats.
Here's one of my favorite lines. I'm not Batman because I like being Batman. I'm Batman because I'm Batman. Which was kind of a cool way to say it. And it does show an evolution of the character that I really dig. That piece is important for me because it's a character, I've been reading this character my whole life. And I really love when they aren't afraid to tell a story that makes me step back and go, okay, this is something new. And this really felt like something new, some new mythos for the character. And I really applaud them for telling this story because it was really a fun read.
Yeah, it's funny because you say, I like that line. I agree with you on that. I do this because I am Batman. But I really did like the bit with him about not being happy. It's like, I do this, but I'm not happy. But what you don't know, Claire, is that I try. I do this to be happy. I try and I fail. I love that moment. Again, it's the emotional growth of Batman, where he's admitting to her that, hey, I fail at being happy. I want to be happy. I want to have joy, but it's always, I can't. I fail to do it. I'm afraid. And I love that moments where, again, emotional growth Batman is really cool.
Yeah, I agree with you. Can we talk a little bit? I watched... Adam West passed away, and I watched recently the Batman 66 movie. I'm actually running it right now while we're chatting, without the audio. I'm just running, the subtitled version of it. I've got a soft spot for Adam West. If you were to ask me my favorite Batman, it's funny. I just got done at the beginning saying that Batman Begins is my favorite Batman movie, and I totally stand by that because of the way that it did, the origin and everything like that with the character. But my Batman is Adam West. And why is I wouldn't be doing this podcast, talking comics, if it wasn't for Adam West. Growing up as a kid, there were two characters that really were the ones I was surrounded by. And it was initially Batman and Spider-Man. Spider-Man was on Electric Company, and we had reruns of the 60s cartoon. And then Batman, we had the Batman 60s show that was running, and we had the Filmation cartoons that were on Saturday morning, and of course Super Friends. But really, it was this show was the one pivotal piece because it was real Batman. You got to see real Batman running around and doing things with Robin, and this was not a spoof to me when I was a little kid. This was so much the adventures of the Caped Crusader. There was so much of it that was just fun and Batman was so smart and seemed to know everything. And it's funny when you watch it now and you're like, his logic made no sense. And he would say, there's a sequence in this where I'm going to the 66 movie, and I'm going to be jumping around a little bit, but there was a sequence where they're in the sub, all the villains, and it's the Riddler, Catwoman, the Joker. They captured Catwoman, Joker, the Riddler, and Penguin. I'm sorry, and they had kidnapped Commodore Schmedlap, and so they fire at the Bat helicopter, right? And it's spinning out of control, and the Riddler's like, I got him, and he's doing that whole bit, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, they land on a rubber convention. And Batman's like, they're talking about what a happy accident this was, but Batman has to say something like, I'll say it was a happy accident, but out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw this. Like, what are you seeing out of the corner of your eye that you caught this? I went to show you how an impact this show had on me. When I went to California a few years ago, we got one of those guidebooks, and I went to where the home is, the Wayne Manor on this. You can't go in. It's not open for the public, but, it's because it's fenced off. But, oh my gosh, it's like right out of the TV show. I'm very, very well taken care of and preserved. And you look at it, and it's that exact building. And it's almost like a religious experience. You go there, it's like, oh my gosh, that is Wayne Manor from the TV show. And I know they used the outside, not the interiors for it, but that was wicked cool. And we were at a convention where somebody had the Batcopter, a restored version of it. I don't know if it was actually the one from the show, but they had created their own, and I mean, it looks identical. So we got to see that. And then in California, they have the site where they shot the Batcave exterior sequences. So when they drove out of the cave, it stinks because it's like a sewage area or something like that now. But we went down there and been checking out, and my wife's my wife literally went along with me because I'm insane. And one of my friends, Kurt, went as well. And, they're going with me, and believe me, the two of them could have vanished and I wouldn't have noticed. Because I'm standing at the site where the Batmobile drove out. And I mean, dude, it smelled. Because it's some kind of, park area now or something like that. But I stood on hallowed ground where the Batmobile came racing out of there. That's the kind of impact that this show and the character had for me. Because as a kid, I was a geeky, nerdy kid. I didn't have a lot of friends. I had geeky hobbies. I didn't really... When you and I met, I had pretty much come into my own, kind of figured out who I am, stopped trying to be something to impress people, and just started being me, which has its own share of issues, as you well know. But in elementary school, I didn't have a lot of friends. I have friends of mine that were people that I knew in elementary school, but really those friendships were forged after elementary school, not so much during. This show was kind of, when you're a geeky kid, these characters start to become your friends, and your sense of comfort when you're kind of feeling lonely and stuff. And Adam West was, the Batman show was the one where it was, he was a hero, and he was doing these amazing things and with these crazy gadgets and facing these colorful villains, and he was a public crime fighter. People respected him. There's points in this film where the police stop, they look up in the sky and see the Batcopter, and they're saluting it. I mean, it's this is so sweet. I watched this very differently. I got the whole series when it came out, when they did the remasters, and they finally were able to release this whole series. And I started watching it and getting into it as the spoof that it was, right? And seeing it for what it was meant to be. When I watched this film after Adam West had died, because I watched it the day that I found out he died, I'm like, I really loved this character. I loved this actor's portrayal. I got the chance to meet him and get his autograph. I've got a picture with him and Burt Ward. I'm not saying that, I paid for it, just like everybody else. But here's the thing. I've got to say this. I met him twice. At the one convention I got him, it was a smaller convention, and he signed a picture for me and gave me an autograph. I got to talk with him. And he was very kind to me. The next time I saw him was in the picture assembly line that you go through at Wizard conventions. Yeah. And, you don't really get to have a moment at those. But I do remember when I got to do my signing, because it was a smaller convention, you didn't feel rushed. I talked about his role on Family Guy and, talked about some of the other... he was on, was it Cop Rock or something like that? He was on one of those shows.
Yeah.
I was on there, and I knew the show name at the time because I went there. I'm like, I'm not going to look stupid. I really liked that show that he was in. It was almost like an airplane-like TV spoof. So I talked about that stuff with him, and when I talked to him, I said talk to him for about 15 minutes because there was no line, and he was very kind. So it was one of those guys that I was just really glad that I met and I didn't have a William Shatner experience with. Because I love Shatner. I still love Shatner to this day and his work. But my picture experience with him when I met him at a WizardCon, I really didn't have a good experience. I don't know if he was having a bad day or what. But I felt like, okay, I gave you my $75 or whatever it was for Shatner to get a picture of him. And I wanted a picture with Captain Kirk where it was at least memorable. And the guy didn't even give a smile. He looks like he's exasperated being there. And my Adam West experience was a good one. And Burt Ward was like jovial, which was really kind of cool. I'm watching right now the shark sequence with the shark repellent. This is so insane. I got over the holiday season. I got on eBay. I got my score. I've always wanted to get back. I had as a kid the Migo Wayne Foundation. The full, building.
Yeah.
Well, I found it on eBay, and it was a complete one. And it cost me some bucks. I'm not going to reveal that amount. I probably shouldn't have paid what I paid, but it was, as a kid, it was probably one of my favorite toys. And I've got it now on a display. I set the whole thing up. I've got it on display. But I have the Migo in the Bat Bus, the crime lab. I've got the Migo Batman figures, but they did these 66 versions. Figures Inc. has the same Migo size, but they're based on the 66 show, and I have them up on it, and it's like, I'm like, as a kid, I would have loved this. You know what I'm loving as I'm watching this, though? I'm watching this shark sequence, and I'm noticing something. The amount of purple in Batman's costume, when you take a look at his current costume inside the comics, his costume from the TV show is a lot closer to what's going on in the comics right now than it's been in a long time. Because there's go ahead.
Well, it is probably I think that's probably an intentional thing on their part, with our current creators to kind of bring a little bit of back, bring it back a little bit. But as I said, purple actually, a dark purple works well for shadows and stuff. So it's, again, we're both fans of what they're currently doing in the series on the look, and and I think the TV series you were talking about, by the way, The Last Precinct, Cop Rock is the one where the cops are singing. Right.
Was that The Last Precinct? Was that the one that Batman?
Yeah,
was?
The Last Precinct. Yeah.
Okay.
He played Captain Rick Wright.
Yeah, I ended up because I didn't want to just talk Batman because of the fact that he is one of those guys, like, he was typecast, and I know that was something that always got to him, but I genuinely, and I've always been like this, if I like somebody in something, I follow them to other things. And I always liked Adam West. So I didn't, he didn't get starred a lot, but when he did, man, I followed him, and I always enjoyed what he was in. I'm going to miss him on Family Guy. Are you a Family Guy fan?
Yeah, I know. I'm wondering how they were going to handle that, and it's funny because with me, like, your Batman experience, is a lot more than my Batman experience. For me, it's this is a weird thing with when I was a kid, I watched it, but I didn't have that diehard love that you had for it. There was always something that seemed off to me, and it was the I didn't understand what was parody and the spoof. I didn't understand that as a kid. So for me, I had those kind of same experiences with the Spider-Man stuff. Those Spider-Man, the Spider-Friends, and the solo Spider-Mans that were constantly in rerun, because I was like, yeah, that's awesome. I was kind of that guy, in dealing with that. And I didn't, I watched Batman, but I didn't have, I liked Batman. I thought he was cool, but I didn't have that same connection. And even growing up, I still was like, oh, okay, I don't know, but it's funny because as the older I get, the more I started appreciating it. The more like even when we first started the podcast, I wasn't all 100. I respected what it was for and what it did, and just just the sanctity of what was the Batman 66. I respected that, but I wasn't like a 66 fan. And it's something as time has gone on that I've actually started becoming a fan of 66, to the point when that animated story came out, I was like, man, this is really cool. This is awesome. And like you, I watched the Bat movie, after he passed away, just kind of as a, you kind of had to do it. When Chris Farley died, I watched Tommy Boy. When Adam West died, I watched the Batman. And it was, just a, kind of a thing. And I'm watching this, and there's stuff that I didn't notice, or I didn't remember, from the last time I'd seen it. But that's the press conference when Catwoman's dressed up as Miss Kitka, and she's talking about Batman, how, he's just a master vigilante, and like, oh no, he's a duly deputized, officer of the law. Yeah, that's right. Support your police. And I was like, man, that's cool. I like the fact that Batman in the 66 series is an actual deputy of the law. He's not just some masked vigilante. It adds to, the fact that the police would salute him. And like you, when I saw that scene, I thought that was a great scene because the cop was flying overhead. The one family sitting there in the picnic going, it makes you feel really good knowing they're on the job, and the cops stop and they salute, and and it was just, there was just so many of those really cool moments that I was finding myself laughing with it again, and it was just like, it's an appreciation for what it was, and an actual, not just appreciation for what it is, but also an enjoyment of it. And that was the thing that there's just multiple scenes in there where, like, when they're shooting the subs and Batman can't jam the missiles, and oh no, they're going to die, and they think they got it, and no, those brave porpoises sacrifice themselves to save Batman. I was like, what? They blew up some porpoises? Come on!
I know,
but I completely had no memory of that scene.
I didn't either.
I'm howling when they're going, yes, that's Batman. All right.
It was funny. I've seen this film probably so many times. There was so much of it. I think what ends up happening, I think you're right, there came a point where, for me, I got like this confused state where I didn't know, did I like it anymore? Because I remembered it as a kid so much as this was my hero. And like you, actually, I do want to step back and say, everything you said about Spider-Man, with Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends and all that, that was me too. I so dug that. But the Batman fan of me loved this so much. And I think when it went off the air, or I had stopped watching it, as I got older, I kept that memory of this being my hero, that when I started watching, I think the 89 Batman film came out, and this started going on TV again, and I was watching it, and I got into it, but I kind of was confused by the spoof nature of it, and was so into what was going on in the Keaton film that that had kind of, I don't want to say I guess I would say it kind of diminished this a little bit, because of the spoof nature of it. I'm like, well, that was, as my childhood, it got me on, interested. As I've gotten older, I am so reinvigorated with this, and it's not even the parody anymore. I really, to your point, I watched this movie from start to finish, and I'm like, man, I really dug this. The animated feature, I will say this, when Adam West passed away, I'm like, oh man, I hope he finished the audio for the William Shatner one. And he did.
Oh, cool.
We got one more animated feature coming.
Oh, nice. Cool.
The Batman versus Two-Face, Adam West versus William Shatner is going to be a thing. So
nice. Yeah, I was worried about that. I was really worried because I'm like, oh no, because I really wanted that.
So I'm glad we get one more, because the sequence with, I'm watching the Cesar Romero with Commodore Schmedlap. This whole sequence where he's acting like, I love that Schmedlap is in a world where Batman's an ace crime fighter, right? Which means people know his villain, Rogues Gallery.
Yeah.
This guy's dressed as a clown, and Schmedlap is just like, this is a normal butler on this boat.
You're awful pale, Come on, dude. What the heck you thinking there?
What I loved is the whole sequence where, their big plan is they're going to dehydrate the world leaders, right? So they dehydrate them into these test tubes. And there's the whole sequence where Batman and Robin are shooting at the sub with their bat I forget what their bat gun was called. Shooting at the sub.
It was bat charges.
Yes.
It was like depth charges, but bat charges.
And I love that the penguin's like, I didn't even think of the bat charges. I love that everybody knows what Batman's gadgets are, like they're science.
Yeah.
And in that sequence of events, the test tubes were teetering back and forth. Schmedlap is reading a book. like nothing's going, like it's a little turbulence on an airplane ride.
Yeah. Oh, and it was funny because I remembered the ending, how how the world leaders get mixed up and Batman sifts somebody. It's not a completely clean sifting. I remembered that, but I didn't remember how the test tubes got broken. So I'm watching those test tubes teeter back and forth. I'm like, are they going to knock him over with this? Like, oh no, as Schmedlap bumps into Batman and he drops him.
Oh gosh, I'm watching the two of them right now. The yacht we saw was a mere illusion.
Yeah.
A tricky projection akin to the common desert mirage. The explanations now is so awesome. I love watching Batman's display of logic. And some of it, like, you're like, that's not what happened. This makes absolutely no sense. But some does.
The riddles. Riddles always, those cracked me up because they're like, what's yellow and right? Banana pen. What? That doesn't make any sense.
Yes. And yet it's so awesome because he owns it.
Yes. Oh, and that's the thing. They really just, it was just one of those things where throughout this whole thing, I'm laughing, I'm enjoying it, and it has me wanting. I'm going to go back and I have the full series because you gave it to me, So I'm going to take some time and I'm going to go through and watch the whole series as well, the original series, and go through all that. And but it was something that again, it was this is, I don't know, man. It's a tough one. This is a tough one because it's this is an iconic person. This is an iconic actor. And as you said, he did more than just this Bat stuff, but the Bat really kind of limited him on a lot of stuff. And when he got into the whole Family Guy thing, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. He got it. And then the animated stuff started. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. He's doing some stuff. And part of me wants to see Family Guy bring in Burt Ward to take over for Mayor West. Make it Mayor Ward and give Burt Ward the job. I part of me think that would be kind of a neat passing of the torch and bring Burt Ward in because, what you said, how he was so high energy. I've seen current interviews with him where he still has that same energy level. He's got a very positive outlook and look on who he was as Robin now, and he's got just this great memories that he has. And I've seen a couple interviews where he's just, he's got that same upbeat attitude. And I think he'd be kind of neat to bring him into Family Guy.
I'd be fine with that. I'm watching the Batboat sequence now where the two of them are going out. This movie had so many gadgets, gizmos in it that I just adored as a kid. It was mind-blowingly cool because you wanted every one of these things. Like, you wanted to ride in the Batboat, and every time I rode in a boat, it was the Batboat. I think you mentioned his passing being an iconic person. For me, this was my childhood hero. When and I'm going back when I was really young. I was into the Batman TV show before I'd even started kindergarten. Really dug the character straight on through. I remember we'd go home from school, and it was on for a half an hour every day, and there was always the cliffhanger.
Yeah. Tune in, same bat time, same bat channel.
And I hated it because I would miss sometimes the first part or the second part, and it irritated me because they were all two-parters. And you would like try to, but how did Batman wind up like this? Or what happened to him? The worst was when there was the cliffhanger, and you don't know how he got off of being on a surfboard that was going to blow up or something,
Or stranded on there's one, it's the quicksand cake. It was a Riddler trap, and I remember the premise that they tricked the world's greatest detective. They tricked him by saying, "Hey, yeah, stand up on top of that cake so we can get to make sure everything fits for the life-size statue." And he stands on it and he starts sinking, and oh no, we're sinking in quicksand. It's a quicksand cake. I still to this day don't know how he got out of that cake. I don't know what he did to get out of that cake, or if I saw it, I don't remember.
I'm sure there was something in his utility belt that he just happened to have.
Of course, but I don't know, and I gotta find that episode, and I gotta watch it, and then I gotta see the second part, see how he got away, because he got away because he's Batman, but how?
So what is this one had the third Catwoman, Lee Merriweather, who only appeared in this film.
Again, I didn't realize that until I was watching it. Wait, Lee Merriweather, where's Julie Newmar? Because that's the one who I always really knew as Catwoman.
And Eartha Kitt. Eartha Kitt was the other one from the TV series. So it was those two, and then Lee Merriweather in this. She was Miss Kitka in this, and I love that throughout this whole thing, he was owning that she was Miss Kitka. I mean, there was no Batman was totally fooled by this one until her mask came off, and Miss Kitka.
Oh yeah, and I loved how some of the sequences where Bruce Wayne got to throw down and got to fight. I thought that was kind of cool that as Bruce Wayne, he's duking it out, and then he ran in a couple times to save Miss Kitka, and he was always focused on that. Even that great bomb running around the city with that bomb sequence before he does anything, he runs into the room where Miss Kitka is. Miss Kitka, she's not here. Okay, and then he goes and he grabs the thing and he gets ready to throw the bomb, and he sees the little baby geeses and duckies, and I can't throw it there. And there's the innocent people there. Oh, I can't do that, and he's running around the city carrying this big old bomb. And I love the fact that every time he goes to throw it, there's something there to prevent him from throwing the bomb into it. Like, oh, I can't do that.
That's the picture I have signed. It's him holding the bomb over his head when he was running with that crazy look on his face.
Yeah.
That's the picture I've got signed. There was an 8x10 of that he had, so I bought it and got it signed, and it was sweet. So and he said that's like one of the more popular ones that people go for. So that piece is I don't know. I think that was a cool part. I'm enjoying watching this right now. I've got it on the subtitle mode, so it's the bit where they get like magnetized to the buoy. Yeah.
Yeah, again, and it's funny because you're sitting there watching, going, okay, he's going to get out. How are they going to do it? And I don't know. It's a fun experience. It really was, and I'm glad that. Again, it's sad the reason I watched it, but I'm glad to have that kind of final farewell. As I said before, when Chris Farley died, me and my brother Dave, we sat and we watched Tommy Boy.
Do you remember?
And it was, it was a kind of we did that intentionally because we heard that morning he died, and we went to a Blockbuster. Dave was stationed in Texas, and so I was visiting him for. I don't remember I was visiting for a holiday or for just to visit him, and we heard in the news, so we went right to a Blockbuster Video and we got a Tommy Boy, and we got to watch this as a tribute to Chris Farley,
It was the Bat Communicator. He reworked it.
Yeah.
And I love that the Penguin's like saying what he did. And the Penguin's like sitting there because it was some ridiculous super energy polarizer thing that he did, and the Penguin's saying it must be that. Which makes no sense at all.
The other scene that cracked me up, that when he calls the Pentagon, the Department of Navy, and he's talking to that admiral, and the admiral just sold a sub to somebody and didn't get a full return address on the guy. They just got a P.O. box.
Stuff's
great. I'd be cracking up going, this is, come on. But the other thing, though, and this is something that I always had in my head, that the cops were, inept in the Batman, TV show. The movie, Commissioner Gordon, he wasn't on Batman's level, but he wasn't inept. And I thought that was a cool thing to see because, especially when they had that, when the four of them were in the office and they're throwing out ideas, they really did, Batman was leading the way, but Commissioner Gordon was actually keeping up with him, and I like the fact that because that was a memory I always thought from my head that they treated the cops like they were inept, and in the movie he wasn't inept. He wasn't Batman because none of us are, but he still could do his job and did his job well. So I was happy with that.
I gotta say so when you were a kid, like we grew up in an era of like Hot Wheel toys and things like that, and what were the toys you collected? What was the thing that was your draw? Like, because for me it was Migos, and that type of stuff, superhero related, and it wasn't just DC. I was a Marvel fan as well. Loved Spider-Man, and really Spider-Man was my first one before X-Men because I didn't get into the X-Men until the 80s. So Spidey was my guy. And Batman. But Migos I loved Super Friends. I loved all of that. What toys did you collect? Like, what was your thing? Like, because
we in our household we had the Star Wars stuff and the G.I. Joe. Those are the leads. The action figures and all that.
Now G.I. Joe. Do you mean the old G.I. Joes with the fuzzy hair and the kung fu grip?
We had some of those, but it was more of the smaller action figures that were the same size as the Star Wars figures.
So, but wait, I'm talking about what was your thing before Star Wars? Because my love for Batman came long before Star Wars. So, was there like a thing that you remember from your childhood that like predated Star Wars?
Let's see here. I'm trying to think.
And I say that because we're the same age, so I'm like,
yeah, I know. And my brother right now is probably yelling at the thing, remembering what we used to play with. But I've got memory issues where there's a like a wall where I don't remember much from. Now I know I had the Mego, superhero figures. We had a lot of the Lone Ranger stuff.
Okay.
The Lone Ranger action figures, and those were the size of the G.I. Joe. We had a lot of the G.I. Joe stuff. Hot Wheels cars was huge with us.
Sure.
But yeah, it's when the G.I. Joe action figures, those the little ones. That's the main memory I
from
have.
The cartoon?
Star Wars action figures.
Are you talking about from the cartoon?
From the cartoon, yeah. Those.
Okay. You see, I was into all that too. I was into Star Wars and that, but Star Wars for us was 77.
Yeah.
So, as a kid, like Batman, my love for Batman, like I don't want to say it came to an end. Then it didn't. I had already graduated to comics at that point. So more than action figures, because the 66 show is kind of a thing of the past for me by the time Star Wars hit, and then it was all Star Wars. I mean, as it would be.
Yeah.
Star Wars was sweet. We were talking about that the other day, going to movie theaters, when we were kids to go see things like Star Wars and stuff like that. You could shut out. I mean, and like often. It wasn't like do you remember that as a kid, like going with the intention of seeing one movie and then you couldn't get in, so you had to go see something else?
Actually, no, man. I think we had a pretty good solid record on that.
Did you guys go early? Yeah. Well, you guys go early to things.
Right.
So you probably went with the intent, and I mean that as a compliment because you guys probably had a plan. We didn't.
We did a lot of the early matinees and stuff like that.
Oh,
we didn't do a lot of the evening movies. The evening movie stuff came, like if we did a family drive-in, we'd go to the drive-in. That was obviously at night, or when we were in high school, middle school, high school, and we were going, then that's when we were doing the evening movies. But as a general rule, I don't really remember us getting shut out of anything.
We got shut out of Star Wars and had to go see it. We saw it that same evening, but we saw the later show. I remember getting shut out of E.T. when that came out. We saw Poltergeist.
Oh, okay.
And then we saw E.T. the following
weekend.
Yeah. No, it was Menor Mall. They had only 2 theaters. And they were showing, which that was very common back then. You had, 2 screens, I should say. They had, so we're in line for E.T. and it got shut out, and they were selling tickets to Poltergeist. So we went to go see Poltergeist, with Carol Ann. That was not E.T.
No, so a little bit different story being told there. Yeah.
They're here.
I never, as a kid, I never watched those movies because that would be it. And heck, I'm saying as a kid, as an adult, I don't watch those movies. I've actually never. I've never sat from beginning to end and watched Poltergeist, any of those, any of the Amityville horrors, none of that stuff.
Wow.
That those things freak me out too much, and it's the whole with the devil and the afterlife and ghosts and whatnot. Those are the ones that freak me out big time. And
you ever see The Omen?
What?
You ever see The Omen?
Oh God, no.
No, that's I would recommend not. The original Omen, I like horror movies, and I mean, there's very few ones that there's a short list of ones that have ever really freaked me out. The Omen's one of them. Oh man, the music in that movie, the original, and just the cinema. That was one of the ones where the music alone was enough to freak me out. And you're right. I think that the devil stuff, like where they really go far with it, that gets me too. I totally get where you're coming from with that and how that's kind of a different level. And I don't know why it's just a ugh. I'm laughing as I'm talking about this. I'm going, ugh. And I'm looking at watch Cesar Romero talking about just a squirt. The four of them are like planning. They're putting all of their ridiculous plans together as a way to take care of Batman. And this is where Catwoman's taking off her costume, talking about how she's Miss Kitka, and that's how she's going to kidnap Bruce Wayne. And they're back at Wayne Manor now, and she's totally making the move on Adam West. You know what Adam West reminds me of in some of the way he carries himself? Who do we know when you see him as Bruce Wayne that it reminds you of? Do you know what I'm talking about? We have a friend of ours who kind of carries himself like Adam West does when he's Bruce Wayne.
I'm completely lost on that one. Who?
Lizzie.
Oh my God! You are so right. Wow, I didn't even think of that.
And I don't mean it as an insult or anything.
No.
The way Adam West carries himself when he's Bruce Wayne reminds me often, some of his mannerisms and some of the facial expressions and stuff like that, almost a dead ringer for. It's almost like he's doing a Lizzie impression.
Yeah.
And I really don't mean that as insulting. I was like sitting there, I'm like, wow, he reminds me a lot of Rob.
Yeah. Well, Rob's got that strut. Rob's always had that strut.
Sure.
And it's a confidence thing.
I do not mean it in any way, shape, or form as an insult.
Yeah.
I totally.
No. I completely. Yeah. I see why it's a compliment, and yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. Because they both. That was the thing. Adam West. When he is playing. When he's in. Bruce Wayne mode, he has that confidence. He's got that. He's got the strut. He's got that. All right. Kind of the. The stylings to him. Yeah, I completely see what you're saying, man. Yeah, as soon as you said it, I'm like, oh my God, yes, I see it. Yeah.
Have you ever watched the first episode of the series?
I don't remember it. And that's something I'm going to watch now. I have to watch it now.
Can you do me a favor when you do get a chance to watch it? Talk about it on the show, because the beginning of it talks about his parents' death, and it's a very mature sequence for the show. And I was like, wow, I never realized how accurately they got his feelings about the death of his parents in the opening episode of the show. It was very cool. Yeah,
I'm definitely going to go through the series. Just one, again, continuing honoring the man, but also I'm getting the groove of it, and I'm like, I got to rewatch this just to see. Because there's so much I don't remember.
Wait, hold on, Jim. I'm gonna tell you a riddle right now. Why are people always in a hurry?
Because they're Russians. I had to think for a second. What was the name?
Rushing people. That was his answer. Rushing people. Oh, Russians. I'm like, what? I love this stuff. I'm like, honestly, I'm like becoming the geekiest fan of this again. For all the right reasons. I mean, it's and you're meant to. The Batcave is way cool. Like,
yeah. It's not the creepy Batcave. It's everything on there. There's not the creepy version or the scary version of Batman. He is in, and I remember when the Keaton film came out. Adam West was in an interview saying, "Hey, this this is really dark. What happened to the fun? What happened to the Bat-Watusi, or just the the enjoyment, the joy of it. And I remember as a kid when
it's
it came out.
Wait, it's the Bat-Tusi, by the way.
Bat-Tusi. Okay, you know what I meant. And I don't even know exactly what Adam West. I can't directly quote him. It was just his mind. In the interview, he was like talking about what happened to the fun of Batman, what happened to the lightness. And I remember when I saw or heard the interview, I was like, dude, man, this is Batman. This is how Batman should be. This is cool. This is dark. Because I was into the Dark Knight version, the Michael Keaton version. I thought that was kind of really cool. And again, it was one of those things where if I'd known, the me now versus the me then would say, no, man, that's fun. That Batman 66 is fun. That's, there's an enjoyment. It's a different, it's a different story being told, or a different style being told, but it's still Batman. It's still, you can't have just all one way. You got to embrace it. And, part of me was wondering if they could ever do a comedic version of the character again, if they could ever go back and kind of go back in time and do more lighter, more funny.
Batman versus Two-Face is the name of the movie that's coming, and he completely recorded his sequence. Julie Newmar's in it as Catwoman again, and Burt Ward's back in it as Robin. But this will be the first time that Shatner and it's actually the first appearance of Two-Face in the 66, aside from the comics, in the 66. And any form of action for the 66. I'm looking forward to seeing this animated feature and seeing Adam West go at it one more time. That will be one I will watch that sometimes, because I pre-order them through iTunes.
Yeah.
And you'll get that email that comes through in your email box that says it's now available to be watched. I'm so geeked out to...
yeah. You're going to have to let me know when it's available on iTunes for the pre-order, because I'm jumping on that bad boy as well.
Yeah. Well, if they're smart, I haven't checked. If they're smart, they'll put it for sale up now, because not to we cash in on everything else, right? But I would think you have a nostalgic crowd that maybe didn't watch any of the previous ones. Didn't watch the previous one, that would jump in on this one because of his passing. And the first one was really good. So I'm very excited for the sequel because I really enjoyed the first one. They're about to pass Benedict Arnold Monument. Man, I love this show. I love that they're talking on the back. Wait, they had the first car phone.
Yeah.
They had the working bat phone in the car. Because they're Robin's talking to Commissioner Gordon from the car. I wanted that red phone in the worst way. Well, I do. When I watch the podcast, I've got... When I watch the podcast, when I record the podcast, my whole setup, I turn it on by turning on. I've got the bust, the Shakespeare bust. You flip it open, and it's a switch to turn on and off electricity. So I have my podcast equipment running through that. So in order to record the podcast, I flip open the Shakespeare head and turn the secret switch, and it turns on all my podcast equipment now. So that's my main motivation. Kitka, I don't know, it's good stuff. So yeah, that was one of the things I've always found interesting with when you and I talk, because we're the same age. And, you kind of take it for granted when you like things growing up as a kid that everyone else has the same exposure. There's no right or wrong to that. We all have different hobbies, and, that's after you have the fun of recording this podcast with you is the fact that we don't have the same background. And we bring that to the table when we have conversations about all this stuff, and I really enjoy that. This is a great example of that, where I'm like, wow, we both grew up in the same era and weren't really exposed to this in the same way. So you watched this as a kid and really just didn't. When did you start watching it then? Was this something that came later, like in the '89 era, or did you actually see this as a kid?
I saw it as a kid, and we watched it, but it was never anything that was. I don't think we were too passionate about it. And I think, and again, as I said, as a kid, I didn't understand the context of spoof and parody. And we'd watch Batman. Oh, okay, Batman's on it. And basically, it was, growing up, we had the one TV in the living room. So as kids, you'd run home. Okay, what can I watch? And when I remember the Star Blazers would come when that started, coming on after schools. That was the big thing we were watching. And,
that was sweet.
the He-Man stuff when that came on, when all the was it the G-Force, Battle of the Planets. That was another big one that we used to watch.
Wait, Battle of the Planets, because that was the same era.
Yeah.
I was the same era for us, I should say.
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of Battle of the Planets. Mark, Jason, Keop, Tiny. Remember the big guy, Tiny?
Yeah.
And Princess.
Yeah.
Yeah, loved that show.
Well, the females were always called princess. They didn't, they didn't give them that much of, there was always even like when Voltron came out, there was the female was the pink lion and she was princess.
Yeah, you're right.
So so there was always just the different stuff that was it was watching TV. It was something on. So I was never had that, that fire and that passion for it. Just same thing like with Wonder Woman. I watched the Wonder Woman stuff and I liked it, but I never had that fiery passion. Oh, Wonder Woman's going on. Yay. Like I don't remember Wonder Girl at all. I don't remember seeing any, and I know the character was around, but I don't have any memories of watching an episode that had her in it.
What about,
so
what about Shazam? Did you watch that on Saturday mornings?
Same thing. On Saturday mornings, but I couldn't tell you I barely remember it. So it wasn't anything I was passionate about. It was never anything. Oh my God, I got like the Spider-Man stuff. I still remember specifics from different Spider-Man episodes. Whether it was the older Spider-Mans that they were rerunning, the Spider Friends, that was really my jam. I liked Spider Friends. I thought that was kind of cool. So I remember details of that series.
Giant flying umbrellas. And the Penguins has a sidecar that the Riddler's in.
Yeah.
This stuff was so great. I really have grown to appreciate Frank Gorshin as the Riddler.
Yeah.
Man, this was so good. It is funny watching it now and having a greater appreciation for it as an adult. Because I did have years where it's funny when you talked about the '89 stuff that Adam West was saying. I was like, oh my God, he's so misguided. He's jaded. That was really my thinking when he was saying all that. I get it because this was his, his portrayal of Batman was so unique and so different, and actually the comics in the time were very reflective of this because this was so popular with Batmania. I don't know if you've seen any of the documentaries. There's a Batmania one. If you haven't seen it, I'll let you borrow it. It's because it's really good. It talks about this whole era and what it was like, and it was so not the comics. This show was, the comics were reflective of this. The culture at the time, like this was around for 3 seasons and people went crazy for it. This show was canceled after the 3rd season, and the only reason why it didn't get picked up is they'd already dismantled the sets. So it was too expensive. The network that wanted to pick it up wanted to take it with everything intact, and because the Batcave had been taken apart, they canceled it.
What you thinking? Come on, man. Yeah. That's the thing that does amaze me, that the people drop, like after 3 seasons, and you look at how much the TV shows, what kind of runs we currently have on different stuff that, I'm like, hard to believe that this thing only had 3 seasons, just as popular as it is, and the longevity of the replay.
This movie had the worst stunt doubles ever.
Well, yeah. Well, especially the Burt Ward stunt doubles.
Yes.
They were really bad because Burt Ward was a very slender, person, and his stunt doubles, man, they were they were like, some big guys, and I'm like, wow, that's a really bad stunt double there. But I bet you those stunt doubles had a ball doing this movie. Those stuntmen must have had fun, but some of the stuff that they had the stunt doubles doing, like some of the run sequence, part of the running was the stunt doubles. I'm like, you couldn't have the actors run that whole sequence? They could have done it.
The Riddler stunt double was the craziest because he wore a wig, and the wig is like gray. It's like, and I mean like a almost a purplish gray. It looks nothing like Frank Gorshin's hair in this. I'm like, what are you doing? And you know what? I wonder if some of this is a sign of HD. Because we're watching this now in high definition.
Right.
And man, is it crystal clear. I wonder if you get away with this with the old film screens and stuff like that. Where, well, I think you would still notice, but not as blatantly as we notice it now with the clarity. Bruce Wayne, outraged over the treatment of Miss Kitka. What have you done with Miss Kitka? If I swear I swear by heaven, if you've harmed that girl, I'll kill you all. Wait, this is not the Kyle rend you limb from limb.
From limb. Oh.
Yeah, I don't know that he was the kinder, gentler Batman. He threatened to kill him. I mean, it's like... Oh, so funny. So funny. Such good stuff. What a loss. Because we talk about Family Guy. You know, the great thing about Family Guy was the fact that, he had such a great sense of humor about himself in it. Because, he's really playing a parody of himself. And I love somebody who's not afraid to satire themselves, which is what he was doing on that. It's so well done. One of my favorite Family Guy characters. And such a shame to be losing him on that. And I don't know, I was glad later in life that he seemed to have this resurgence by people who were fans of him growing up. I know, really good stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, rest in peace, Adam West. I felt the need to. I remember texting you, and it was funny. You messaged me back like, "Are you all right?" Like this was like a member of my family. I mean, I wasn't in that. And I'm not making light. I wasn't in that place with it because he wasn't a member of my family. But I did. It was an emotional day where I was like, I really wanted to watch something Batman because of the fact that. I don't know, such a great experience. It's a great part of my life. I'm so thrilled that when I met him, he was kind. Just because so many of your childhood memories get wrecked when, like, I've met comic creators before that I love and had a bad experience. Now, that list is very short. Most people I've met relating to comics are the most incredibly kind people. I'm going back from your old school people straight on through to modern day. But there were two in particular that were on my bucket list, and I'm not going to say names, who I had less than stellar experience. And I recognize one of them, I caught them on a Sunday at a con, and it was later in the day. And I'm going to chalk that up to, it's a real good possibility I caught that person on the last day of the con and they were just spent. So I'm going to give them that. And that's one reason not to say the name. The other one I've heard since is notorious for just not, and I'm like, well, then don't go to the cons. And I don't mean that in a mean way. It's just more of a, what are you there for if you're just annoyed with everybody? Just keep doing your craft and do it well, and don't show up there because it wasn't somebody that was charging for autographs or anything. So I'm not quite sure what the I guess the con may have paid something for the person to be there. I don't know, but it was I've met so many. Obviously, I'm a big fan of a lot of comic creators from the podcasts that we do, and I've always had a good experience. There's very few celebrities I've met that I've had a bad experience with. I met Captain Kirk, and I don't want to say it was a bad experience, but it was a letdown. I'm glad that on my bucket list, I've got a picture with Captain Kirk because I love Shatner's work, and I'm excited for Batman vs. Two-Face to see Shatner in it, but my meeting with him was not. I would have liked something a little bit more. Probably the best, hands down for me, Adam West, just because it was that was highest on my bucket list and paid off. But Henry Winkler, the Fonz, was
he's awesome. Yeah,
I met him when he came to Wizard World Cleveland, and I got a picture with him. He was saying everybody's name, like he'd go, "What's your name?" and references your name as you're getting the picture taken. My neighbors who live next door to me, they're big. Pop culture geeks, like we are and that type of thing. And they went and got a picture with him. They were talking about how great he was, too. And it's kind of nice to hear when I was a big Happy Days fan, to, meet those people that were, when you were a kid, were like your heroes. And Henry Winkler was one of them as the Fonz. That was a cool one. So, I don't know. I'm glad Adam West, I have nothing but positive memories. And that was a big one that hit me. So I'm glad we got a chance. I'm glad you're up for talking about this one, and I'm glad you watched the film because I thought that this would be a fun little segment just to kind of casually talk about the man and his work, and it's kind of neat synergy that now at this stage in our life we're both watching this stuff and digging it in a way that For me, it was a roller coaster. I started up very high, loving it. Then I started to grow up, and the spoof kind of bothered me because I'm like, well, but that's not Batman to me. Batman's serious, and now I'm in another. So it's good stuff.
Maybe our two stories are really the same story.
Howdy. This is Mike Gordon reporting to you from Earth Station 1 base in Atlanta, Georgia. They don't call it Hotlanta for nothing, and it's been very hot here. Very hot. This city has seen some tough times, to be sure. Sherman's March, the snowpocalypse of 2014, various zombie outbreaks, but it has never seen anything like the current surge by the Sensei of the Whatnot and the Themyscirans. The might of the Amazons combined with the strategery of Jim has just proved unstoppable for us. Sean, if you're out there, have you seen the new Wonder Woman movie yet? I hear the beginning of the movie takes place on Themyscira. Please, did you notice anything about the Amazons that can help us? We are looking for any weaknesses we can find with the Army. On behalf of everyone here in Atlanta and the rest of the United States, please send whatever information you can. You are our only hope. Oh my God, I think they're about to breach the wall. I have to go. I'm hoping that we can survive long enough to celebrate episode 500 with you. Godspeed.
First of all, I am your only hope. I'm like your Obi-Wan. So I totally get this. And knowing Jim like I do and his strategery, I can help you with this. So here's what you got to do with Atlanta. And this really, you do need Themyscirans for this because you're going to need worker bees. What you got to do is Atlanta, you got to build a moat. And I mean a giant one. The kind of moat that you can't swim across. Not healthily. The kind of moat that you would need a bridge to get across. Then what you need to do is build those bridges. And I mean build, like, insanely unsafe bridges. I mean, like, the kind that, like, you got to say to yourself, listen, we're going to use these to get across because we've got no other choice, but we know they're scary and unsafe. So, I mean, like, you don't just build bridges. You build bridges that people who, like, normally would build safe bridges would go, you people are nuts. You use the wrong kind of materials. I recommend maybe toothpicks and straws and build a bridge with them. Recognizing the fact that probably every third person's going to fall through the bridge. Okay? But again, if you look at the population of Atlanta, that means that a good portion of two-thirds of you are going to survive, right? If every third person's gone. So 2/3 of you are going to survive the attack of the Sensei of the Whatnot. And the reason why is really bridges are his kryptonite. So this is really the only way to protect yourself. And my fear would be if you build a safe enough bridge that with his strategery, he would find a way for his band of Themyscirans, I guess, to build some sort of craft that would allow them to cross your bridge safely. And if you make it a bridge that is incredibly unsafe, that would be like his, gold kryptonite. It would like take away his powers permanently. He knows that would take away any sense of strategery. So I would really say that 3 or 4 unsafe bridges around the giant moat that you would make of Atlanta. And I, for anybody that lives in suburbs that would be decimated by this, I apologize, but you've got to think of the greater good. So okay. This would be my recommendation. It's radical, but admittedly it would work.
Well, first off, outstanding voicemail on that one, dude. I'm howling here. That was outstanding. You know. Secondly, your strategery is off, Sean. Because
why?
Here's why. Mm-hmm. My fear is when I am driving the vehicle. If I am the passenger, it does not play into a factor.
Okay, but here's the catch.
So as long as I'm not driving, I'm okay.
Okay, because of the fact that my bridge is made of toothpicks and straws, you're not getting a vehicle over it. You're going to have to walk it.
Okay, now that would work, because I feel like screw that.
See?
I'm walking across the
You got to remember, I know the fact that you're okay being a passenger. That's why I said you have to build an incredibly unsafe bridge that people would fall through. I am building for you. It really is the perfect death trap.
Yeah.
Because here's what would happen. You'd start stepping across, you'd see every third soldier of yours falling through this bridge, and you'd be like, I'm not doing that. we're done. I know how this works. So this is the perfect trap for you.
Well, okay,
this is your giant birthday cake. Wait, this is your giant, to use a Batman analogy, this is your giant birthday cake.
Yeah. Yeah, this is my giant birthday cake.
Mike is one of those guys. We haven't been able to do conventions for quite some time. I mean, where we've both been there together. We've both gone to conventions, but not as a podcast. And Mike's been one of those guys. I had Daryl on last episode, and Mike's another one of those guys that I met Mike at the cons, and there were times when Mike was selling some of his own comic work, which is great. There was times where I met Mike, and Mike was there as a fan. There was other times where I met Mike, and Mike was there on behalf of podcasts. Mike is just one of those guys that I've considered myself very lucky in the 11 years I've done this podcast. First of all, to be doing it with one of my best friends, but also the many genuine friends that we've met that I never would have met if it wasn't for this podcast. And Mike is one of those guys. Just the second I met him, I just felt an instant camaraderie with him, and We've seen him at CGS shows. We've seen him at, just one of those guys. Yeah. And I would say the Earth Station 1 gang, I've been lucky enough to be on their podcast as a guest, talking about Doctor Who. I would love to go on that podcast again just because it's on my regular rotation of podcasts that I listen to. It's just great people. This hobby has become so much more enjoyable to me. This artistic medium has become so much more enjoyable to me and all the pop culture with it because of the cool people that we've met over the years. And Mike's on that list. So this not only does this make me laugh out loud hysterically, but it's great as we're getting closer to 500, as Mike's mentioning, actually 2 more episodes, that we have a chance to just say thanks, Mike, for being such a part of this. Because that's part of what makes you get to 500. It's the great people that not only listen to the show, but have become friends. And there's been so many people that have become genuine friends through doing this podcast. If you're not listening to their Station 1 podcasts, and I say podcast because they've got a network, and definitely check out their Station 1 podcast. The great people and, fans like you, and it's just really good material. So thanks, Mike.
How you doing, Sean and Jim? Just want to give you my review on the Wonder Woman movie. I gave the movie a 10. The movie was excellent. I had so much enjoyment out of the movie. All I can say is I can't wait to buy this movie, which I don't do a lot. I don't buy a lot of movies. But this movie I will be buying because I want to watch this over and over again. One point of the movie was very kid-friendly. I was able to take my 13-year-old daughter and 11-year-old son. Wasn't nothing overtly violent as far as, profanity and, risque shots. So in that point, it was very good for children to watch, for far as my 2 children are concerned. They're mature enough to watch it. I don't know about everyone's kid, but mine was able to watch the movie and enjoy it, and they love the movie. They can't wait till I buy the movie so we can all watch it again together. Wanted to comment on DC's television, though. We got Batman coming of age in Gotham. He's making his first appearance, which seems to be very interesting with Bruce. Can't wait to the next season. Flash ended on a really, really high note with Iris staying alive. Too bad the Earth 2 doppelganger had to bite the bullet, but, we still have a Wales existing. So, at least we can still enjoy the character. Green Arrow ended very, 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 very well. Don't know what's going to happen with his son. Can't wait the next season to see what's going on. Legends of Tomorrow ended on a very note of we don't know what's going to go on with the original captain of the ship. Hope he's not being written off the show. I'd like to see him again. But if not, Sarah is a great captain, and we'll have to just...
There's a lot I want to discuss with what he said, and he got cut off at the end, by the way, so but he had so much content there, I wanted to start by sharing it, which I always appreciate Russell's calls. The Wonder Woman movie, one thing that's a very common thread from people that have called in our show over the years when they talk about film that have kids, I really love how many active parents we've got that listen to this podcast. I mean, in the sense that they make decisions on what content their kids see and that they don't see. But also, it's clear that even if they, I think different parents have different sets of rules and different elasticity as far as what their kids can be exposed to. But when you have an active parent, that means if you see something with your kids that is questionable, you're having conversations with them and you're talking that through them with them. I just think it's really neat that he goes to Wonder Woman and he's having this experience with his kids versus being a passive parent. And I really applaud our listening audience because we're heading into 500 shows. We've had a decent amount of voicemails and emails over the years from a wide variety of people, and that's a consistency. We've got some really great parents that listen to this podcast. So yay you! I mean, it's I don't know, it's uplifting to me. And in a day and age where parents I think take a lot of flack. I think we've got some of the best listening to the show. I mean, I'm in awe of you as a group, and just keep on being you because we've had the opportunity to interact with some of their kids on our podcast, and they've all been just great kids. So I'm just excited about that. I totally agree with him on his comments about Wonder Woman. Obviously, we talked about it this episode. What a great, great, great movie. Is it Gal Gadot or Gal Gadot? Because I've heard both. So I'm not correcting him. I'm more questioning myself. I don't know where I got Gal Gadot from. I guess I'm questioning, am I wrong or am I right? I don't know.
See, I always thought it was Gail Gadot, and the T was silence.
It's Gal, not Gail.
See, I alys say Gail.
You're adding an I that doesn't exist. It's G-A-L.
I know. But that's why I'm saying don't go by my pronunciation. Do
you have any idea how much you're...
That's why,
wait, you just came back...
Why you don't listen to me.
No, it is why. Because, literally, I went and asked you, and you come back with Gail. I'm like, what the hell am I asking him for? He's as bad as I am. Between the two of us, you probably got the last name right. I've got the first name right. I mean, we're like the electric company, right? I'll say the first name, Jim. You say the last name, okay? Gal.
Gadot.
Gal.
Gadot.
Okay, we're good. Clearly, between the two of us, we share a brain. You talked about the TV shows. Man, have they been good this season. Gotham, I just got caught up on. And he starts to get spoilery on some of the cool stuff that happened at the end of the season. What a great show. And, you know what I found this season? I was taking classes for my principal's licensure, and I got behind on everything. Comics, television, everything. I love watching these shows in spurts.
Yeah.
Where you can watch, it's not necessarily that I'm watching even 2 or 3 at once. It's watching, Monday I watch one, Tuesday I watch one, Wednesday I watch one. I think the stories have so much rich continuity when you do that. So I went back through and I was finishing watching Gotham. I finally got to the end of it. This was a great Gotham season. Woof! That is a well-written show.
Yeah, I'm very happy with the TV listening, with the TV watchings, etc. And again, it's funny because I do the iTunes season pass now that you always talked about.
Yeah,
I love that, so I'm not filling up my DVR, my TV is filling up with other stuff, and I have a history. I have power outage issues and stuff like that, so I don't worry about missing any TV shows because it's all on my iTunes. I jump on that, and I'll sit in my computer room and watch a couple episodes, and knock out a couple here, knock out a couple there. So yeah, the TV universe is just firing on all cylinders for me. I'm just absolutely ecstatic over everything. I think it's one of those things where I'm just sitting there going, okay, entertain me, and I'm not angry, I'm not yelling, I'm not, they should have done this. Nothing like that with the TV shows. And as I said when we were talking Justice League, Flash, they got him down. That's why I'm so worried about the T in the movie, because we're gonna be comparing to this great TV series to this Flash, and it's one of those the following acts. It's kind of like being you got to watch who you got this comparison to, and it's gonna be a tough run for the movie.
It's funny when we talk about that. I think about that show and I think about Arrow. Arrow had a very dark season. Like Flash's season was dark too, but there's always that brightness of the Flash show. Actually, one of the things those two are still my yin and yang shows. I love both of them equally, but it's like light versus dark.
Yeah.
And I like that. I actually quite like they're my Superman and Batman, on TV right now in kind of The Brave and the Bold, that type of thing. I really enjoy the way that those two shows play off each other. Legends of Tomorrow with the ensemble cast on there, that's a show that I do worry about that cast probably more than any other DC show because of the fact that I think there's some of the lesser known characters in the DC universe, including the fact that Sarah's really White Canary was totally crafted for TV, so she's probably the most expendable.
Yeah.
And so I worry about these characters because of the fact that, they could kill any of them off or, write them off the show or anything. And we've seen changes to the cast on there. I really like that show. I hope it continues to do well in the ratings because I would like to see another season. And I don't mind if they switch out a couple members of the cast because it just seems to add flavor. Well,
that show, I think, is well suited for moving people around and bringing new ones in or taking people out, or I think that's a show where you can really get away with it well, and it's again like you, I think for me, I always throw back which is Flash or Arrow. I always do that dance, but for me, Flash I think always is really starting to beat out Arrow, just because I so enjoy and so love Barry and just the way the character is written and the way he's created, and just I think and I'm not knocking Arrow because that's an outstanding show and I love it, but it's one of those things you got to pick one or the other. I go Flash, just like with Supergirl. I always throw Supergirl into the mix as as within dancing with around that top three because I love the Supergirl series. That's another one I'm so happy is still around.
Yeah, Supergirl's a great show, and I like that they found a way to incorporate it into that same kind of shared. I know it's another planet on the multiverse, but I'm so glad they found a way to incorporate it into the larger DC universe on TV they're creating. DC TV has been consistently good. That's why when Wonder Woman's movie comes out and it's kicks butt, it's just more of like this, wow, what a great time to be a DC fan. Dude, you've got to, when you get a game system, get the Injustice game.
Yeah, I got to get a game system. I really do need to get one.
Because it's, the cool part about the Injustice game is it has two branching arcs. You can choose your own ending between the two different arcs. I'm not going to tell you how, but you go back through the game. If you complete all of the versions of the fights that are before, you can play the version you didn't choose. And you can see the alternate ending. And it really is it's a situation of light versus dark endings.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's really cool to see what happens if the bad guys win. And it's a great superhero story. But that game kicks all kinds of butt. It's doing really well in sales, which I'm thrilled because it's another DC video game property that's doing well. Hey, you know what? It's funny is he was talking about DC media. Have you seen the Lego Batman movie?
I haven't seen it, and I want to.
It's terrific. It's a load of fun because you liked the Lego movie.
Yeah, I know. And the Lego properties themselves, I actually really enjoy those. So it's one of the movies I want to see, and eventually I will see it. And it's out on iTunes already, or no?
It's out. Yeah, that's where I saw it. Actually, I didn't see it in the theater. I couldn't.
Okay.
I think at the time my wife didn't want to go or something. I don't remember what it was. I really wanted to see it, and it just passed me by. It was which is unusual because it's Batman, and so I pre-ordered it on iTunes, and I got that magic message saying it was out, and I ended up watching it the day that it was out. Man, is it good!
Yeah.
You see, animated feature-wise, we got Batman versus Harley Quinn coming up, or Batman Harley Quinn.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the next...
I didn't know that one. Cool.
That's the next DC animated release. Have you seen Judas Contract yet?
No, I haven't watched it yet.
That's one we'll have to chat about casually on the show when you end up catching a chance to watch it. That was good. These animated features are still hitting it out of the park. Here's the thing. We've got an insane amount of DC content now.
Yeah, I know. It's a good thing to have too much content going, what do we talk about?
Yeah, I actually really love the fact that like I'm constantly if I'm in a DC mood, there's constant new stuff to watch. Besides my old favorites, and comic wise, there's a lot of new stuff to read. I like their digital stuff that they've been putting out. The Injustice comic, by the way, for anybody listening, I said it on a previous episode, but I want to say it again. The Injustice comic rocks. And you do not need to be playing that game to enjoy the comic. So definitely consider picking that one up, because it's a great multiverse, Elseworld story that's well worth reading in comic form.
Hey guys, this is Scott Smith. I haven't called in a while, but I just had to leave a quick message for you guys because I know you'd appreciate, probably some of your listeners would appreciate it also, but I'm just now leaving Heroes Con in Charlotte, which again, you guys have got to come to this con. This is a great con. They'll have great guests, and they're the artists and the writers are very accessible. There's usually not terribly long lines, though there were a little heavier lines today being Saturday. But anyway, Jerry Ordway was there for the first time. It was his first time he'd been at Heroes Con, and he was catching up on some commissions from yesterday, so we had to wait a little while to get to our commissions. And he was telling some great stories from the 80s and 90s and different things. But the one that I thought that everybody would appreciate, he was talking about when the Man of Steel relaunched in the 80s, right after Crisis, and John Byrne did. And he said before they DC settled on John Byrne and what they were going to do with that title, there was an editor at the time who ended up not being the final editor on the Man of Steel miniseries, who had approached Howard Chaykin about doing the Man of Steel relaunch. And he had talked about Howard Chaykin I'm talking about. He had talked about having Superman carry a boombox around. Now, we kind of all laughed, and Mr. Ordway, he said, "No, I'm serious. That was Howard Chaykin's idea, to have Superman with a modified costume, but he would have a boombox. He would carry around a boombox wherever we go." So we all kind of laughed at that, and we're kind of glad that didn't happen. Hey guys, Scott, we got cut off, but I was just saying that was one of the more interesting stories that Jerry Ordway told us. But very nice guy, very personable. We had to wait several hours, even though I was like second in line today. We had to wait several hours to get our sketches because he was catching up from yesterday. So he was very, very busy, very popular. Definitely worth the wait. I got a Johnny Quick from All-Star Squadron. I got a full body sketch of that with inks and everything. Very reasonably priced. So I recommend if he comes to a con near your area, you really should go, because he's a super nice guy and did a great job. So anyway, love the show. Y'all have a good evening. Thanks.
It's funny, since we've been doing this podcast, Jim and I were just talking about this. Heroes Con, from so many people that we've run into, it's been a con that people have been saying where to go. We were actually talking about it. You got a graduation next year that you may have to go to during that time frame. I really want to go to this next year, just because I've never been. Matter of fact, I'm going to say it right now. I'm going to Heroes Con next year. And honestly, I have no problem saying you're going with me if you can. So, I mean, because the only conflict would be if you've got a family obligation, you're going to your family obligation. So, I want to go. Heroes Con, I'm in next year. I want to go. It's one I want to hit. So if anybody out here is a listener and you're going to be at Heroes Con next year and you want to hook up and chat and stuff like that, I'm all in. I would love to do that. Scott, definitely, if you're going to be there, I'd love to see you. But I need a lot of our friends go to this con that we haven't seen in a long time. I would really love to hit this thing. So I'm hitting it next year for sure. And hopefully you'll be able to join me. But
and how funny it was, as the voicemail is going on, both Sean and I, without saying anything, both pulled up Heroes Con, and we were both looking at the webpage going, man, I want to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I can, I'm in, because that's, again, a con I've never been to. Heck, that's a state I don't think I've ever been to. So let's do it.
It's I definitely want to hit that con, just because I've heard nothing but good things about it. So I'm definitely in for that one next year. To his voicemail, oh my gosh, Jerry Ordway is such a classic creator, and for him to be talking about, especially with his role in the whole Superman with a boombox, he always carries it. How would that even work?
Yeah, why would he?
Why? Wait. You're asking the wrong question, Jim. It's not why would he, it's why wouldn't he?
I get.
Hey, listen, here's the thing. If he was crossing a bridge, it would distract him from the experience. So going back continuity-wise, this could be Superman, like when there was kryptonite, he used to get in the Supermobile, and that would be how he made it would safely, in kryptonite areas or areas where there wasn't the sun, the red, the Earth's sun, he had a red sun or something like that. Superman would use the Supermobile to make that kind of stuff happen. The Supermobile made rare appearances, but do you remember the Supermobile? It was the thing that had the big fists. Oh, yeah. Corgi,
2 big claws, and yeah.
Corgi made the die-cast metal vehicle when we were kids of the Supermobile. I had one. I loved Supermobile. So that was the Supermobile. The boombox could be your Supermobile, Jim. You could fling it over your shoulder. You could choose not to look at the fact that you're on a bridge. Honestly, Atlanta's back in trouble again.
Well, actually, Atlanta.
I don't know whose side I'm on.
See, here's the thing. Atlanta would be safer because if I got a boombox on my shoulder, I'm dancing. If I got a beat, I'm dancing to it, which would, take down your bridge of toothpicks and, and straws. So that, I can't have a boombox if I try to cross that bridge because,
wait a minute.
Hey, you give me a beat, I'm grooving.
Dude, here's the thing. I'm going to fix that bridge if I get to watch you dancing across it. Because believe you me, I got my iPhone out, and I'm going to have the most popular YouTube channel in the world.
Hey, man, I got moves. Moves.
And honestly, people of Atlanta, I love you. I've got nothing against you at all. But listen, you want to see it too. You'll give up your town for this. You know you would. I mean, it's... So yeah, that would be The Jerry Ordway story is great, though. I get enthusiastic. This is one of the things I love about voicemails, and it's one of the reasons why I air all voicemails, and it really is the purpose of encouraging people to call into the show, because I love stories like this. I mean, great experience meeting a classic creator, whether it's a new creator, an older creator, whatever, just a great experience you had with a great story like that. I mean, I never heard that before. What a nutty... You can see why DC was kind of like, maybe we should check out some other ideas. And I love Howard Chaykin. You know what? It sounds like a very Howard Chaykin idea, though.
Yeah.
That's great. We need a pitch for Superman. How about a boombox that he always carries? Remember, that was the 80s, though. That was the era of the boombox. So they were looking to make him contemporary. Was there any concept art of this? I want to see it. Like, why? What did it look like? What the function of it? I want to go to the multiverse Earth that happened, and I want to read like the first arc.
I just want to know why. That's all I want to know.
Yes.
I don't need to see it. I just want to know why.
Well, I want to go to the con, though, where we can talk to him on that Earth. Not only why, but where he's going to go with it. You know what I mean? Don't you want to know? Like, what would what would Superman's big event be? Boombox Superman? What would be like his big event? Would it be the Earth's batteries run out? And then
the dance off. It'd be the dance off.
Oh, that would be
Superman versus Luthor.
Wait, here's the thing though. Do we know that wouldn't be popular? Guardians of the Galaxy. You've seen both Guardians of the Galaxies, I'm assuming? Star-Lord dance off?
Yeah.
People love that. How do you know that wouldn't have started a trend early? Superman dance off. Wow.
Goes up against Metallo, who does the great robot,
You can't outdance me. My kryptonite will slow you down. You do your moonwalk. Man, wow. Jerry Ordway. That's cool, though. It's those kind of con experiences are great. And those sketches, see, that's something, because I haven't gone to cons in a while, I did the local Cleveland one, and really enjoyed it. And I think I'm going to do the Columbus one this year again. But here's the thing, I'm going more for indie comic creators, because they're there, and media guests. We don't get the whole comic gambit. I want to go to Heroes Con, because that sounds like a real, true, full-blown Comic-Con. And I love media guests, don't get me wrong. I actually really like those conventions. But it's been a while since I've been to a tried and true, straight up, in your face comic convention. And so I'm going to Heroes next year. I'm in. I'm a lock. So I'm going to put that on my
if I can,
list.
I'm there.
Yeah, that one, and I want to hit Baltimore too eventually, because Baltimore I heard is a really good one. So we'll do that. Thanks for calling in, Scott. Thanks for the great story about Jerry Ordway. That's sweet. And I do want to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. And please feel free to call in with other stories of Jim's terrorizing the nation, because I think it's a chronic problem. I think it was very brave to hear the stories of the trials of Atlanta, but Jim's been elsewhere, all over the world. And I know it hasn't been clean. I've gone to cons with him. I've shared a room with him. It's scary. So it had to have happened to some of you as well. Feel free to call in. Share your stories. The more outrageous, the better. The more realistic, the better. Tell us what's really happening out there in the world. It's about time Jim's brought to justice. I'm just saying.
Spinning with great speed, the Flash creates a protective vacuum around himself.
I would like to remind everyone about our show website, RagingBullets.com. That's where anytime we post the episodes, we throw them right up on RagingBullets.com. You can actually click and listen right from the website. There's links also to Twitter, to Facebook. We have a Facebook group. Our website pumps out to both of those places, so that's a great way to find out information. We're proud members of a Facebook group community. Actually, Jeremy from the Facebook group, I'm going to have him on the show sometime soon. I haven't forgotten about it. It's you and I, our schedules have been literally so crazy that we have been struggling to record. So we're going to get Jeremy on sometime. I almost called him Jerry. I've got Jerry Ordway in my head from this episode. We're going to get Jeremy back on sometime really soon to talk about the podcast group. It'll probably be right after 500. So we're the community is amazing, and if you haven't been a part of a Facebook group community, this is a group that really loves to talk about comics and pop culture, and I'm just so proud to be associated with it. So thank you very much to the great people that run it and are a part of it, and still hold it under our show banner, because it means a lot that we're connected with it on some level, and the quality of the people that are there. Jim, we are also on Google+. I'm on the PlayStation Network, Raging_Bullets. I'm on the Nintendo Network that I really don't quite understand yet, but I love it. I love my Switch. I'm enjoying playing the game. I got ARMS. I've had ARMS for years, but I got the game ARMS, and it's pretty fun. Yeah, if anybody wants to beat me up, it's a great way to do it. So let me know. Join up and let's fight. That's good stuff. I like the Switch, but I'm a big PlayStation fan too. E3 was recently, and man, they had some killer stuff being listed there, including a wicked Spider-Man game coming out for the PlayStation 4. It's exclusive. It's through Insomniac is the studio. They did Ratchet and Clank. Their games are just incredibly polished, and this Spider-Man game looks sweet. So I'm very excited. Jim, we are sponsored this episode by DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. What's going on at DCBService.com?
Well, of course, we got our bundles. They're continuing their support of DC Comics with some really cool deals. 50% off of these different bundles, including a Rebirth bundle that has the Dark Knight's Metal #1 issue. So jump on that, as well as, of course, variant cover bundles, 45% off on those. But DCBS is a great source for statues. You know, they have a couple different Wonder Woman statues right now that are out there, ranging from 20 to 25% off. Price ranges between $41 and $111. So there's something for everyone's budget, but all these things look really cool. So, thank you, DCBS. Thank you.
Over at InStockTrades.com, they always have the latest releases, and Nightwing trade paperback, Volume 2, Back to Bloodhaven. It's the Rebirth series. It's 42% off, only $9.85. Batwoman by Greg Rucka and J.H. Williams III trade paperback. This is 42% off, only $14.49. Detective Comics trade paperback, Volume 9, Gordon at War, 42% off, only $9.85. It's great if you miss certain books or you want collected versions of favorite books. InStockTrades.com is your great way to catch up on those. They're always at an amazing discount, and they just have an incredible selection. So I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Mr. Seguin, our next episode, I think it's time that we get together and discuss Titans, Teen Titans, and Deathstroke's amazing crossover. Woohoo! So we will see everyone. Actually, before I say this, I also want to remind everyone that after that will be our 500th episode where we're all about the Golden Age. We're going to be talking about the first appearance of Superman, the first appearance of Batman, the first appearance of Robin, the first appearance of Wonder Woman, and the first appearance of the Justice Society. So, we will see everyone next week.
Bye!
On November 13th, Sean Whalen was asked to stop constantly talking about comic books. That request came from his wife. Deep down, he knew she was right, but he also knew that someday he would find someone that would talk to him. With nowhere else to go, he appeared at the home of his childhood friend Jim Segulin. Sometime earlier, Segulin's boss had requested that he shut up about his comic books and never speak of them again. Can two grown men put out a DC Comics podcast without driving each other crazy? It's Raging Bullets, the DC Comics fan podcast. With Sean Whalen as Dr. Norge, and Jim Segulin as the Sensei of the Whatnot and the Duke of You-Know. It's a spoiler podcast, so they will go in depth into the plot line, story twists, and whatnot of the comics they are reviewing. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you may better enjoy the show.